Bettor Sports Network.
Are you ready, kids?
I'm ready.
I can't hear you.
Who's ready?
I'm ready.
Who's ready?
I'm ready.
Who's ready?
I'm ready.
What's going on out here?
Hello, I like money.
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
A healthy hello to everybody on this Tuesday edition of Lunch Money. I emphasize healthy. Ray, I'm feeling about 94%, which is good. 94%. That's kind of how I'm feeling today. How about you? What percentage of feel did you give yourself today?
Yeah, I had a busy morning. I'm about 86%. I'm a little lower than you, but I'm still a solid B. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's very important that we all understand how we are feeling and how healthy we are at this very moment. Because, Ray, we are dealing with news today that is anything but healthy. In fact, it's like, welcome to the real world. Here's your wake-up call at the end of February. My goodness, Ray, since we last spoke in 24 hours, baseball players are falling like flies, man. We're still a month away from the season, and I feel like we lost, I don't know, 4 or 5 starters in the last day or so.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, it's just a mess. And, I think it's remarkable the mess that has occurred given the variety of the mess. There's a lot of things. I'll hit on my appetizer here in a second, but I mean, this is, and there's so much talk about the rules and the changes, and there's so many people are focused on that. I don't know if enough people are picking up this, the fact that baseball's had a lot of injuries it's dealt with the last few years, and it's really started extremely strong again this season. It's so disappointing.
Yeah, well, and it's, I'm just preparing everybody for that moment in late April where like every show that you tune into or everything you read goes, it's worse than ever. We've never had a year like this. I'm predicting it now. You're going to hear those shows. I will probably even have one of those shows. Oh, it's never been worse. Hey, but here's what I always say. It gives everyone an excuse for why their fantasy team sucks.
That's true.
But we all got to remember the pluses, if you will. I see our buddy Wookie has already checked in the chat room. He is plowing snow while we talk about baseball and spring training. So enjoy that, Wookie. We're not plowing. So although Ray is still dealing with like a monsoon coming through the Bay Area, it's rain. It's cold. You guys are having like a wild last 2 months, aren't you?
Yeah, and really, I mean, if we're being honest, it like for you, this is probably a Tuesday. Like it doesn't matter. But
Not
for us,
day after day, though. It seems like every day you're dealing with this.
It's a lot. And last year we had if you missed the show yesterday, there was thunder audibly heard on the show. That was like I think that's the longest thunder that I've ever heard. It was at least 10 seconds. It was just over and over. It was rolling thunder. We had lightning and thunder last night. The rain's back this morning. So yeah, for us soft people out here in the Bay Area and the West Coast, it's been a rough month.
Well, it's mid 50s and sunny here in the Midwest. It's nice. Spring is around the corner. Some people say, baseball's started. Spring's around the corner. Sometimes it's as simple as the weather.
42 degrees right here, Kyle. Yeah.
42. Okay. Well, you're north of me, I think. So not too crazy. What is that? Latitude? No, that's is that longitude, north, south? Boy, I got to hit the books. Latitude, I think.
Latitude, longitude,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, latitude is north-south. We're learning here on this edition of Lunch Money. Great to have everybody with us in the chat room. Chris, Henry, Wookie, others. Keep it going. Got any questions? Got any thoughts? Any comments? Anything you want us to discuss, by all means, send it our way. Want to thank our producers, Miss Heather Klein, Mr. Josh Winchester. Great to have both them back on board. We are with you, of course, until 3 o'clock today, as we carry forth into the afternoon here on the Bettor Sports Network. As always, we begin with our lunch menu. Ray said he wants to talk about injuries. So, Ray, I cede the floor. It's appetizer time. That's how we begin the lunch menu. What injury has you going nutso here on this Tuesday afternoon?
Well, it really isn't one injury in particular. There'll be three I'll highlight, but it's the preponderance of injuries. We just got a report seconds ago from Bob Nightingale that Gavin Lux has a torn ACL, so obviously his season is over. Gavin Lux ducked on a throw by a player from third base and fell over. I mean, he ducked and he didn't. It wasn't, I get it. The guy's throwing the ball at your head. They're taught to drop down as an infielder. Instead of throwing up here, you drop down to get the guy out of the way. Okay. So he ducks, tries to keep running, and tears his ACL. Nothing happened.
Well,
Tyler Glasnow throws 6 pitches in a bullpen, pulls his oblique. There's 6 pitches, pulls his oblique. Joe Musgrove, who the most recent story is, besides this Gavin Lux one, dropped a kettlebell weight. And for those people that don't know, it's the one with it looks like a circle, and it's got the little handle on it.
Yeah.
Dropped a kettlebell weight on his foot, broke his foot. We have no idea how long the broken toe, I guess, officially. We have no idea how long the broken toe is going to keep him out. He's not going to be able to throw for weeks. So he's going to miss the start of the season. What the hell is going on? Like, it's one thing to say I tore my ACL mid-season or whatever. I stopped being an athlete at 25 years old, like a real athlete at 25. I kept, I swim and do things, but 25 was about where I stopped being a real athlete. Never once in my life was I running and I fell over and tore something. Never once did I throw the ball 6 times and tear something. Never once did I drop a weight on my toe and break my foot. These are some of the best athletes in the world, and they can't do things that everyone watching this show right now does on a daily basis. They can't do that without getting hurt. And it's one thing to say, this is 1972. And this goes back to a long-running discussion we have. It's one thing to say it's 1972 and the guys show up out of shape. Because in the old days, guys legitimately would show up to camp to get into shape. They worked at car dealerships. They sold homes. They had second jobs. They didn't make a lot of money. They had second jobs in the offseason. They showed up fat and out of shape. They worked for 2 months. They were ready for the start of the season. They then went out and played 150 games. They then went out and had 600 at-bats. They then went out and threw 200 innings. These guys today basically do this year-round. They have personal chefs. They have personal trainers. They're in better shape than ever before. They're more trained than ever before. And they can't do simple things like run, throw, or lift a weight. I'm really confused by all this, Kyle. We're moving ahead in society. Everything's boom, boom, boom. These athletes today are probably 25%, if I'm being kind, better than guys 40 years ago. It might be 50% better athletes than it was 50 years ago. And they can't do simple things, let alone the injuries that are going to occur from doing the thing that they're paid to do.
Gavin Lux, pretty fit guy. Tyler Glasnow, pretty fit guy. Joe Musgrove, pretty fit guy. What's interesting is maybe the most unfit guy in baseball. And I don't, this is probably unfair to say he's the most unfit guy. There are probably some relievers who are more unfit. But let's say of everyday players. Vlad Guerrero Jr. Big guy, chubby guy. Guess who plays every single day? Guess who played 160 games last year? Guess who played 161 games the year before? Guess who played all 60 in the COVID shortened year? And guess who played 123 when he was called up by the Blue Jays 4 years ago? Ha! Vlad Guerrero Jr. Ray, bigger is not better. Bigger is not better. Now, in the case of Musgrove, it has nothing to do with being fit or not. It's an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I personally would tell everybody, stop it with the kettlebells. This is, to me, the dumbest workout that I can possibly think of. And I say that from experience, right? Very early in my relationship with my wife, you do things that, after 8 years of marriage, you don't ever do. But when you first start dating someone, you're like, yes, I'm interested in this. Let's do this. Share it together. Oh, you like this? Oh, well, let me embrace this. And Ray, I went to one of these workout classes, and it's like where you do, 45 minutes of all this movement around. You're in a gym. You're throwing ropes around, and, all this crap. It's not for me. Okay, not for me. It is for a lot of people. It's extremely popular. She still does that stuff, like CrossFit training stuff. And Ray, there was the kettlebell thing. I didn't know how to lift it. I wasn't trained. And Ray, I blew my lower back. I couldn't even, I remember the next day, the next morning I woke up, I could not touch my knees. because my lower back was so like tight and
Locked
shot.
up. Mm-hmm.
And I had to have my wife I was turned over in a pretzel trying to stretch this thing out. And I said, never again. Let's stop it. So the kettle bar, bell, whatever, get rid of it. Joe Musgrove, stay away. Every baseball player, stay away. Those things are useless. There are so many better ways to, I'm going to lift and stuff without dropping this giant piece of lead on your foot. So stop it with the kettlebell. Hope that stops it forever. Glasnow. Ray, I would argue he really hasn't pitched for 2 years, year and a half, I guess. Mm-hmm. Came back at the end of last year, 11 innings. I'm not surprised by a muscle tightness strain. It's a little worrisome. It sounds like he just came out, Ray, and was like gung-ho, fired up too much and overdid it.
You know, look, there's a problem. There is a problem with, and it goes, I don't know, kettlebell this or the rope thing, that, or whatever. There's a problem in baseball. Guys pull their obliques all the freaking time. And for the first 130 years of baseball, no one ever pulled an oblique.
Because nobody had muscles
no
in
one
their
had
belly.
An oblique. Right. But they never did. They never did. These guys played 150 games. They never pulled no.
They call it a rib strain.
Yeah,
but now it's a fancy name.
But it's sore. They'd miss a week and they'd keep playing. These guys missed 6 weeks.
They're too ripped.
And that is something I have said. Henry V said that. Joey G in the Discord. I've said this for years.
I remember, Ray, you remember this. Growing up, it was like, no, you don't want to lift too many weights as a baseball player.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing. I played high school, all that stuff. Don't lift weights. You want to be flexible.
Right.
You don't want to be this big hulking giant at the play. And now, Ray, I don't know when that changed, but it totally has changed in the last 25 years. Because growing up, weightlifting was not a thing in baseball. Even for the pros, Ray, there wasn't a whole lot of weightlifting. Mike Schmidt didn't kill it in the gym. No way, no how. They stayed fit, they stayed flexible, and they came out and they played baseball every day.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember specifically kind of, I don't know if he was the first guy, but you remember Rich Harden? Rich Harden was on the cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine, and he was ripped out of his mind.
I'll tell you the one I remember.
Yeah.
The one I remember is Gabe Kapler. Remember,
Gabe
Kapler came
still
up
that way.
Dude, he was an incredible Hulk, and he was a super prospect. Couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah, same thing with Rich Harden. Couldn't stay on the field either. And again, this is not, you can be muscular and throw 200 innings. You could be skinny and break down. But look at this. Tristan McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie's my hero because he's skinnier than me. Right? He's going to throw 200 innings this year, right? He throws 96 miles an hour. I don't understand what we're doing. I'll say this. What we're doing isn't working. It's one thing to drop a weight on your foot. Okay. It's another thing, I guess, to tear your knee while you're running to third base. Okay, I guess. But throwing pitches, pulling muscles while you're throwing, something you've done your entire life, you're training wrong. Or you're not warming up properly. It's one or the other, right? Or maybe it's both. I don't know. But to say that, because oblique. Where was this injury 50 years ago? And even when the guys hurt their side, like I said, they'd miss a week and they're right back out there. Maybe 2 weeks. It wasn't 6 weeks. No. The athletes are too tightly wound. They're too tightly wound. That's 100% accurate. Everything they do is 100% all the time. I mean, Barry Bonds used to get made fun of all the time. Actually, he got picked on all the time because he'd hit a ground ball to second base and he'd run like this to first. Because he knew he was out. What was the point, right? These guys now, they're busting their butt. I get it. I'm not saying don't hustle or anything like that, but you can go 90%. You don't have to go 100% on everything they do. I'm hoping the pitch clock helps this because everyone kind of gets in the rhythm and they get going and it's not as much 100% because I had 40 seconds to think about it. Go. But Gatto, I mean, this is.
But Ray, let me stop you there at the pitch clock. I know what's going to happen this year. We're going to have pitchers injured, and what are they going to blame it on? This pitch clock, I have to hurry to the plate. I can't get set. My mechanics are off because I have to beat the clock, just like Glasnow. When Glasnow blew his arm out, what did he blame? The sticky stuff.
He blamed that he wasn't allowed to cheat anymore.
It is a guarantee that all these guys are going to blame the pitch clock if they're suffering arm injuries. Book it. It like this just gives them another thing to, instead of saying, well, maybe it's me and how I train or how I prepare, they're just going to blame the pitch clock.
By the way, this is great. I just saw this right now on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at the Ray Flowers. I'm also on Instagram at the Ray Flowers. You can follow our channel at Bettor Network on Twitter. Danny Vietti, who I don't know, tweeted out, since his debut in 2016, Tyler Glasnow 67 starts, Bartolo Colon 85. Bartolo Colon retired in 2018. Or after the season. So, I mean,
retweet that, Ray. That deserves a little push.
Right? That's a good one. But it's like, I mean, and by the way, Gavin Lux, there's other issues with his knee besides the ACL. There's some lateral meniscus stuff going on. So he's going to have a long recovery coming back. The news is just coming out now with him. But and I don't know what the answer is. And I've always thought of it this way, because again, I was a former athlete. I was a pretty good athlete growing up. I always thought, that you have a certain point and then something's going to break, right? It's just, you have some guys got 150,000 throws. Other guys got 250,000 throws. Other guys got 1 million throws, whatever. There's a point where your body just says, I need a break. I don't know. I think all the training, all the effort, all these guys, they max out their bodies so much that they just shorten that down. Why are guys having 2 and 3 Tommy John surgeries? That's asinine. That's just crazy pants. Like, how are you blowing your arm out repeatedly? You have a problem. You have weakness in your muscle structure. Your mechanics are off. There's problems here. And, we can't even get a week. We're not even a week into camp in terms of games being played. And these guys they're boom, top SP2 gone, SP2 gone. Like, this is really bad. And it's another reason why I and you, and if I'm in agreement on this, Kyle, we've always said to people and strongly pushed more recently, doing drafts later. Like, these people that draft in December and January, it's cool, but you end up drafting a team where you have 5 guys hurt by the time the season starts.
Yeah. Musgrove, a broken toe, indefinite, but I doubt he's going to be ready for the start of the season. You're probably looking sometime in late April. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know which toe it is.
It'll be longer
we
than
don't
that.
know how severe the break is. Yeah. Do we even know what foot? If
it could need surgery. We don't. I mean, it could be well into the season.
So we haven't got word on that. Glasnow not going to be ready for opening day. He's like 6 to 8 weeks with the oblique. And Ray just mentioned Gavin Lux done for the season, torn ACL. So that's where we stand right now. Now we're going to discuss a little bit more on these injuries coming up later in the show, probably in the next 40 minutes or so. What does it mean for drafting Tyler Glasnow? What does it mean for drafting Joe Musgrove? There are other things. Say a Suzuki has an injury. What does it mean when you handle these guys and you draft guys who to start the season are injured? I always say that constantly. It's one thing to say, I can't predict injuries. You do know who's injured, though, when you're drafting them, and people still don't care about that. So you now know Musgrove's injured. You now know that Tyler Glasnow is injured, and we'll discuss what that means for their draft futures coming up in the next month. Now, lo and behold, my appetizer kind of piggybacks on Ray's. Here we are complaining about guys who are leaving the baseball field. How about we talk about a guy who today will return to the baseball field? But it's only like a one shot, although it's not really a one shot. It's probably like a 18 shot. Fernando Tatis is set to be in the lineup for the San Diego Padres. He is allowed to play throughout spring training. So 18, 20 games, whatever it may be. Tatis back in the lineup. Now, of course, PED suspension. I think the first day he is eligible is April 20th. He's coming off shoulder issues for the last 2 years, coming off a broken wrist as well. The guy has been a lot of hype, a lot of excitement when he's out there. He performs, but probably more than anything, a lot of injuries. That's been the MO on Fernando Tatis. So we're told he's healthy. We know he's going to sit out the first 3 weeks or so, but then we're good to go. Wanted to bring up Tatis because, again, he's debuting today. All eyes will be on him. And I'm sure through spring training, it's like, can he or can he not make it through spring camp? Ray, can he or can he not make it through spring camp? Where are you going? I'm going to give you odds here. Okay. Yes is -110. No is -120.
Yes, he'll make it through camp, but then the problems will start. He'll make it through camp.
Okay, so he'll make it to the regular season.
Yeah.
He'll probably get injured between March 30th and April 20th when he's eligible to play. I will tell you this, and Ray's going to shake his head on this. He's not going to like the sound of this. Ray, I'm giving him one more shot. One more shot on Fernando Tatis. Right now, his ADP is top 20. That's a guy who we know is going to miss 3 weeks of games. That's a guy who we know is probably going to be on the IL at some point this year. That's his MO. You can't say, well, you can't predict that yet. Look at the history here. That history indicates an IL. Ray, I'm giving him one last shot. I am willing to take Fernando Tatis in the middle of the second round. You can't dispute the talent, the infield, outfield eligibility. I know it's risky, but Ray, that is a risk right now I'm willing to take. I won't touch the DeGrom stuff. Glasnow's off my board now. I'm not interested in waiting around for him to get healthy and then build up the arm strength and all that crap. I'm finished with that. But Tatis, Ray, has got one more shot. It begins today, probably with an at-bat or two. We'll see. Now, if I'm the Padres, I'm saying no diving. There is no diving in spring training, dude. I don't care if you can make the play. No diving. Whether you're in the outfield or shortstop, no diving. So that would be my parameters. But Ray, as long as he makes it through camp, and I'm drafting there on May or March 22nd, whatever it is, I will take the dive. Now, if he turns in 58 games, then I'm finished. Then he's like DeGrom to me. But Ray, for now, I got one more year where I'm willing to embrace Fernando Tatis.
I mean, totally defensible, multi-position eligible, massive talent. He went 40-25 a couple years ago. It's not about that. It's about everything else. And what can I say that I haven't already said? The guy is an utter disaster. Physically, mentally, on the field, off the field, he's an utter disaster. But he's a phenomenal player. Phenomenal player. And I could sit here and make all the arguments against him. We could do 3 hours on this. And I don't think at the end, I don't know at the end if we would change anyone's opinion. Right?
Will you touch him? Will you touch him? Or are you already out on Tatis?
If under, he's not on my don't draft list. So it's possible. Is he on a target list of mine? He is not.
But they're sitting there at number 20. And I don't know how often he's fallen to 20.
Right.
I mean, if he's at 20, I'm striking. If he's at 18, I'm striking. Ray, I might, like, if I'm picking early in the second round at like 15, I might be striking on Fernando Tatis.
Well, if you look at him and you see, let me pull this up to verify as we're talking. He's roughly coming off the board at the same time as Mike Trout, right? Roughly. Would you take Trout or Tatis, Kyle?
Tatis.
And when you look at Tatis and you look at Trout, you have to build in injury, you have to build in some missed time, but the outlook for their home runs is similar. The outlook for the RBIs is similar. The outlook for the runs scored is similar. Massive difference in steals, right? Mm-hmm. And it could be a batting average gap too, but it probably won't be much, 20 points, right? Maybe it might be the same. So I think that Tatis over Trout, again, I'm not out on Tatis because the price point is at a level that it's okay to do, but I'm not targeting him at that price point. I think it all depends how the draft goes.
If he makes it through the next month healthy and kind of looks good, kind of looks like Fernando Tatis, Ray, I'm not going to be surprised if he's getting into the end of the first round for a lot of drafters. I mean, there's excitement with him. He's, we sit here and complain all the time about the problems with baseball. People don't like it. They don't like that. They don't like this. Why can't anybody watch the game? All that stuff. Fernando Tatis, and Ray would agree with this, is an exciting talent. Like, it's very easy. If you could keep this guy on the field, he could take over this sport. He really could. He's exciting. He's young. He has the look, of just a cool guy to the kids, like all that stuff. He can be a centerpiece of the major league puzzle for the next decade.
Absolutely.
So that does play, believe it or not, in the fantasy game. If he shows he's healthy, he's on the field looking like Tatis, that's exciting for fantasy players to say, I'm going Fernando Tatis. I fall victim to it. It's exciting. It's like, man, I could get the best player in fantasy baseball as the 18th pick.
Well, it's kind of like the Christian McCaffrey thing we've dealt with the last couple of years, but in McCaffrey's case, he was always like a top 5, top 8 player. In the case of Tatis, you're getting another round there. So to your point, if he was the 8th pick, I think it's a much more difficult decision than if he's the 18th pick.
Because there's still superstars at 8.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, you've got around the 20s, like Alonso, you mentioned Trout, Devers, Austin Riley, really good players. And somebody say, no, they're superstars. Trout's a superstar, but to me, Austin Riley, not a superstar. Sorry, Austin Riley. Rafael Devers, he's good, not a superstar. Pete Alonso, I know New York, he's huge, but newsflash, nobody really cares about Pete Alonso outside New York. Not really. I haven't picked up on that. Maybe I'm missing something, but he doesn't register as like, oh, one of the top 5 or 6 hitters in baseball. But Tatis can do that. Tatis can be that guy, and that excitement will push him up draft boards. And I will give him a shot. It's always a question of the room. I don't even think, Ray, it's fair to sit here and say, well, if you're sitting at the 4th pick of the 2nd round, you can get Tatis. I don't know. Like, I say this all the time. When you have 12 dudes in a room and some of them are really prepared, some of them are not prepared. A lot of times the not prepared guy, Ray, they may take Tatis 8th overall. You know, right. And that just blows up everything because we're not all dealing with the same draft room or the same level, I guess you could say, of expertise in the fantasy game. But it begins today for Tatis Jr. That game will take place, I think, at 3:00 Eastern with the Padres playing out in Arizona. So we'll let you know, make sure he's in the lineup, tell you where he's at. We do know that Juan Soto probably not going to be in the lineup. He is nursing an injury. He's got a bit of a calf issue, so he's got to take the day off. We hope it's just a day for Juan Soto. Main course, well, more injuries. We'll tell you what it means for the draft status of Tyler Glasnow, 6 to 8 weeks with an oblique, what it means for the draft status of Joe Musgrove and others. Seiya Suzuki, who I know isn't a high-end outfielder, but certainly a guy getting drafted in every single fantasy baseball league. He's not going to be ready for opening day. He's already dropped out of the World Baseball Classic. So we'll get you up to date on that with our main course. Side dishes today. We've got more on second baseman. We will take a look back at some of the big surprises of last year and tell you if you can expect a repeat in 2023. AL Central is our division that we are discussing all this week. We will take a look at the offseason storylines for the 5 teams there. Got some NFL coming your way, a lot of quarterback news. Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, both have been released. Ray, it's always wild. We talk about salary caps and all that, and it's like, you release Carson Wentz and you clear $26 million in salary cap. Marcus Mariota, $15 million. And even, Ray, we're getting news that Kenny Galladay, his time is almost over in the Big Apple. Man, how will you remember those glorious years of Kenny Galladay in New York?
For the fact that he was out with a leg injury and was still able to go to the Streezy, the strip club, and have some fun. That will be my memory of him with the Giants, Kyle.
Yeah, that's a better memory than most of the fans, Ray. I don't know if he had a play on the field, maybe. Did he have a touchdown? He had to have a touchdown, right? Did he have a touchdown with the Giants?
Let's look it up. I'm looking it up right now.
Run it down for me. Kenny Galladay did. They paid him a Brinks truck. They gave him the bank.
Here we
Did
go.
He get a single touchdown.
He played 26 games, 43 catches, 602 yards, 1 touchdown.
1 touchdown. Man, that was a magical moment. I'm surprised I forgot it. Only happened once. Remember, he was a touchdown maker.
He led the league with 11 touchdowns in 2019. He has scored 3 touchdowns in 3 years since.
Yeah. I Freaky Fat Guys, I think, right? Was it the last game this year he scored a touchdown?
I think it was right.
I think it was week 18. I think he left the Giants on a high note. But man,
he did, Kyle. 2 catches, 30 yards, and a score against the Eagles.
Yeah, good call, Freaky Fat Guy there in our chat room. So we'll get to all that. Elsewhere, it's a Tuesday. That sold for how much? We will ask that question in hour 3. We'll also sneak in some NBA. LeBron is also injured, by the way. So he and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. It's not just a baseball thing. All these guys are injured. They're just too fine-tuned. Ray, it's like it's awesome to have a car that can get to 140 miles an hour. Like, you love a race, but if your engine's not built for that, it don't matter. You're going to blow that engine out real quick. So maybe these guys just don't have the engine.
Yeah, well, the problem is you get to a certain point, and there's always been this running debate in medical circles that how much of it you can strengthen your muscles. Can you strengthen your tendons? Can you strengthen your ligaments? How much tension are you putting on it? What's your body mass look like? What are your lever length? Like all these things. And like I was saying,
bone structure holding up all these muscles. They're
like
heavy.
I was saying earlier, and again, there's always been the thing with me. I used to weigh 35 pounds more than I did when I was 16. So I was, and people see me now and they laugh. I got so many newspaper articles, burly, husky, chunky. Like I was the biggest dude on the field. And
Ray
so
got fat shamed.
I did. I totally did. Absolutely true. I'm hitting home runs. The Husky first baseman won the game. Just say I won the game. So I was like the biggest kid. And people see me now and they, oh, Ray, you're so thin. Well, I know my body can hold the weight because I've had the weight, but I have no desire to put it back on. Now that's different. A lot of people start out like my size and then get big as athletes, right? You can't, if you weigh 180, like the Barry Bonds thing. And what happened to him? 1 year he tore his elbow. He just tore it because he went from 195 pounds to 230. There's a limit genetically where we're all at, and we can pump it up and all that, Kyle. But I've talked about this too. I always get nervous when we hear guys lost 20 pounds or they gained 10 pounds of muscle, 15 pounds, because your body needs to find an equilibrium, and sometimes the equilibrium that it finds is an injury.
And with the Vlad thing, right? It's crazy. Like, he hasn't missed a game really in 4 years. And he's the fattest dude in baseball. At least as a hitter, there aren't many bigger than Vlad Guerrero. Yeah. So kind of surprising, but he's always out there. But these other guys can't stay out there at all. Let us move to our bet du jour. Going to the NBA tonight, we've got the Pacers on the road at Dallas. Here's my pick. Let's take the over. And it's a big number. It's 237. Anytime you start sniffing 240, that's a big, big number. But I'm still going with the over. Mavs do have Doncic and Irving. Ever since those two guys have been there, 3-pointers have been just raining for the Mavericks. Scoring has been really high for the Mavericks. Now, they don't play any defense. The record really isn't improving, but they can score now with Irving and Doncic. That's enough. So they should score. Indiana has stopped playing defense. What's the number here? They have allowed over 120 points in 3 of their last 5. Dallas doesn't play D. Indiana's not playing D, so I'm taking the over. 237 is that number. Last night I took the under on that 217 for Philly and Miami. They got to 200 even, I think, in that game. So got you a hit yesterday. We'll go the other way today, dramatically the other way, with an over on Indiana and Dallas. Dessert for the day. Before we get out of here, we'll tell you about the military, the U.S. military, who is fattening up the U.S. military. I'll tell you why, I'll tell you how, I'll tell you if there's a solution coming up a bit later in the show. And Ray, that takes us on our lunch menu to our drink of the day. What do you have for us, sir?
Yeah, so I was out. I went to the beach. I mentioned this the other day. Went to the beach over the weekend. Had a nice time in between all the rain. Had the puppy out there, and my gal wanted to run in and get something at the market real quick, get a drink. Okay. And as she is wont to do, as we've talked about here, she's always thinking about me, right? Hey, give me a 6-pack. 6 packs emerge.
Do you ever get out of the car and get her anything?
I stay in the car with the puppy. I drive on the weekends because she drives during the week. So on the weekends, I'm the chauffeur, and she goes in and buys things. I stay with the puppy. So yeah, I'm not a bad guy. I'm driving because I'm trying to help her out. So she finds it hilarious to me. She knows I'll drink an energy drink every once in a while. Now, I like regular. Like, give me the low carb Monster regular. Give me the sugar free Rockstar. Like, I don't like the fruity mixes. I just want the straight, energy drink. She wants me to try like every energy drink on the market, apparently, because anytime we go to a market, she gives me one. So this one is a C4 energy drink for superhuman performance, Kyle. Okay, superhuman. Now,
maybe that's what Glasnow drank before his throwing session.
Yeah, right. Now it's a C4 energy drink, superhuman performance. But check out the top for the flavor.
Ooh, create now. But
Starburst
here's the thing.
Strawberry.
Oh, it's Starburst strawberry. So that's the light pink. Is that the strawberry or is that the red?
I think it's the red. It's a clear soda, so they didn't put that in there. It kind of tastes. I mean, it tastes like a strawberry energy drink. But my God, was this not good? Like, this is just not like, it tastes, I don't know if saccharin's the right word or what. It tastes fake, right?
To me, these things are dangerous, Ray. Like, you got your lady buying you all these random. I don't trust them. Like, I see something like that, Ray, and it's like, that hasn't been checked out by anybody. That's some guy in his bathtub putting that stuff together. Kyle, like, I don't drink a lot, but like Red Bull, okay, you're a brand, you've been around for 25 years. Right. Mountain Dew, hell, you're a Pepsi Cola thing. But Ray, I look at that and it's like, no, that's going to cause a growth on my kidney. I'm not doing that stuff.
This has got carnosine and beta power, Kyle. What do you mean this isn't beta power, bro?
Yeah. The same thing that comes in strawberry, beta power.
I'll give her credit. She got the 0 sugar, right? So she got the right one technically because she knows I don't drink. But strawberry Starburst? This is not. I told her after I drank this, she was really interested. Don't ever get this one again.
Did you finish this?
I drank about like 2/3 of it, and I.
What is it? This is 24 ounces of that crap, isn't it?
No, it's 16 ounces. 16. We were at the beach, and I had to be careful too, because if you drink too much, then you're at the beach. Where are you going to go? I can't be the dog going So I drank about 2/3 of it, and for what it was, it's okay, but it's just not my jam.
Yeah. Now to me, I'm confused how something can be 0 sugar in that family of drinks and still have the boost. I struggle with that. Like the boost is caffeine and sugar. If I take that out, what am I left with?
You get 200 milligrams of caffeine. It's NSE certified sport. What is carnosine? Patented form of beta-alanine, has been clinically shown to fight fatigue, improve muscular endurance. Within minutes of drinking a CR4, you may feel a tingling sensation from betadine, signaling that your body is primed for superhuman performance.
Superhuman. Isn't this the stuff Bruce Banner used to drink?
All of a sudden, I weighed 210 pounds again, Kyle.
Oh goodness! You gotta stay, Ray. You gotta stay away from that.
I didn't ask for it. Like I said,
but that stuff that is not healthy. That stuff. How many of those do you have a week? 5?
No. I'd say it depends. I run in hot and cold streaks. Usually, I'd say 2 or 3 a week.
2 or 3. Okay. Not
and
the worst.
Again, and so people, I've said this. I like the taste of it. Like it's not about. I don't need the caffeine. I can drink 3 of these and go to bed. It doesn't. The caffeine. I have natural energy. I just like the taste. Okay.
Well, the chat room says that's a pre-workout drink. So
yeah, of course it is. You can feel that tingling sensation. Superhuman performance.
Okay.
How do you follow that up, Kyle?
Well, mine is a pre-workout drink too.
Oh, nice.
If the workout consists of bellying up to the bar and sitting there for a few hours.
Okay.
This is another reference to the other night, the trivia night. This is one of the randos that I brought to the trivia night. I have said before how much of a pleasure it is to enjoy Boulevard Brewing out of Kansas City. To me, never had a bad beer from there. I've had this beer before. I grabbed it the other night. I wouldn't call this anything like over the top great. I mean, their top beer is still the Tank 7.
Okay.
Always in love with the Tank 7 at Boulevard. But this one's pretty good. And I maybe have 2-3 of these a year. This is the Boulevard Space Camper. Nice. It is a cosmic IPA, Ray.
Look at that hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
That hair barely fits in the
carrot
helmet.
top or what?
Yeah.
It may be that girl. What was the
with Bruce Willis.
Yeah. The element, the fifth element. What was that
it.
called?
I think that's it. Yeah.
The fifth element. I think it's that girl. Maybe. I don't know. Either that or the girl from like the Second Born, or was it the Firstborn? I don't know. Whatever one. But this is a cosmic IPA. It's good. I don't know what makes it cosmic. It does say something on the side here, which my eyesight, I've talked about this before. My eyesight's just crap. Let's see. Save the Earth, it says.
Go ahead, Kyle.
So save the Earth, the only planet with beer, which is true. I love that. Save the Earth, the only planet with beer. Ray, I don't know what we'll find on Mars one day, but I bet we don't find beer, right?
Joey G, by the way, said that's his favorite Boulevard beer. So you have someone in agreement with you there, Kyle. I don't know for a fact that they don't have beer on other planets. I would say it's
what do you
likely.
think, Ray?
I don't think there's beer on the moon or Mars. So I think that's fair. But yeah, it's probably unique.
Yeah. I don't think there is beer on it. I'm going to go out on a limb, Ray.
Okay.
And say that other planets do not have beer. Okay. We're told in the chat room Star Wars had beer. All right.
There's a cantina. There's a whole cantina scene. You remember Star Wars where they go
I
in
do
there
remember the cantina. Yeah, they have the elephant.
And they meet Chewbacca and Han, and the bad guy comes up, and Obi-Wan takes his lightsaber out and cuts his arm off. That was,
I remember that. Were they drunk when that happened?
They weren't drunk. The guys might have been drunk. In Star Trek, they have drinks too.
Yeah.
So they
5.9 on this gal. 5.9.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There you go. It's a good one. The Space Camper Cosmic IPA, otherworldly IPA. That is our drink of the day. That is our lunch menu for today. Now, we got a lot to get to, so let's take a breather here. A little early, in fact, we'll take the breather. And we'll come back and talk about draft status. for Joe Musgrove, Tyler Glasnow, Seiya Suzuki, and more than likely another guy who's going to get injured. Stick around. Every minute, there seems to be a guy getting injured. We are following spring action throughout the day. If anything occurs there, you're going to hear about it right here on the Bettor Sports Network. We are back with more Lunch Money. Stay with us. Tuesday, we roll on after this on BSN.
Hey, it's your boy Rick Kamla, a.k.a. Ricky Props on Bettor Sports Network. Let's head to the wood and make you some money on the NBA. We got Ja Morant at home against the Lakers, under 27.5 points, minus 110. He's been under this number in 4 straight and 7 of the last 10. First meeting against the Lakers, he had 22. He's averaging in February 25.6. Under trends all over the place. And the Grizzlies might blow out the Lakers tonight without LeBron. Damian Lillard at Golden State, under 37.5 points, minus 115. I'm not Scrooge. I'm not the Grinch. These numbers are just too high. And Dame is coming off a career-high 71 with 13 threes. I fade everyone coming off of a career-high season or a career-high game because there's only one way to go, and that's down. GSW actually defends at home, and they will most likely take the ball out of Dame's hands with blitzes and double teams and force others to beat them. And Dame is a minus 4 points per game on the road this year at 29.9. I do like Klay Thompson's over, though, at home against Portland, over 26.5, minus 120. Klay is in the zone right now. 74 points, 18 threes in his last 2 games. Portland is mediocre at defending twos. He's been over this number in 5 of 8, and he's a plus 5.6 points per game at home. Jordan Poole at home against Portland, over 23.5 points, minus 110. Poole is super due for an eruption. He's been under this number in 3 straight. No Steph, no Wiggins, no Draymond, ultra green light. 2 meetings against Portland. He's averaging 39.5 points per game. Bang on. Kyle Kuzma at Atlanta, under 24.5 points, minus 105. The number's just too big. The data does not support an overplay here. He's been under this number in 3 straight and 7 of 8. All right. He's a minus 1.4 points per game on the road. And in February, he's averaging 16 points per game. Okay. The Ricky Props rule. Wait until about an hour and a half before tip to play these based on late breaking injury news. Now, for some ATS best bets. Okay. Toronto minus 5 at home against Chicago. The Raptors are heading north. The Bulls are heading south. They have lost 6 of 8. Toronto got blown out in their last game to Cleveland, but in the previous 8, they won 7 of those 8. They're playing good basketball, okay? Home court advantage will be huge. Toronto is 19-13 at home. The Bulls are 10-20 on the road. And Fred VanVleet is back for the Raptors tonight. And then I've got Dallas minus 7 at home against Indiana. Motivation spot for the Mavs. The duo of Luka and Kyrie is 1-3 together. They got to get it cooking here. And Indiana is dreadful on the road. Won their last road game, but in the previous 11, they lost all of them by an average of 11.5 points per game. Get interactive with Ricky Props and Bettor Sports Network at Bettor Network on Twitter. And for more NBA and college basketball betting advice, go to bettorsports.com and on demand with the Bettor Sports Network app. And you can find more content at Bettor Network on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
And a swing and a miss. He went right back to that fastball 96.
Hey, listen, I wouldn't want to come out either.
Yep. Well, it's been a great night for Tyler Glasnow. He gets a great hand.
Ground ball to shortstop. Kim will go to first. The San Diego Padres get their first no-hitter in the history of the franchise. It belongs to San Diego's own Joe Musgrove, sending the Friar faithful into a frenzy.
Well, for all the glory, there are often challenges in life. Look no further than Tyler Glasnow and Joe Musgrove. We welcome you back in to Lunch Money on a Tuesday, where today it's kind of all about Major League Baseball injuries. We've received word today Gavin Lux is done for the season, a non-contact ACL tear. We should note, Ray, soon thereafter, after that news broke, Dave Roberts, the manager for LA, came out and said, yeah, we'll probably have to adjust a few things, including Mookie Betts maybe getting some reps in the infield. And it sounds like for the WBC, he'll play second base. And now I guess he's going to get work in the infield with the Dodgers as they kind of shift things around. Miguel Vargas is probably your new second baseman, and they got Rojas, I guess it is, over at short. But both those guys are unknowns as everyday players. Do you really want to go 150 games? So we're kind of going through the mix and match phase, I guess, a bit with the Dodgers here.
Yeah, and they're, this is not hopefully an omen for them. I don't mind if it is because I'm a Giants fan, but hopefully it's not an omen for them because, the Padres can seemingly do no wrong despite the Musgrove thing. So they got their own issue they're dealing with. But this obviously throws the old wrench in the plans. It solidifies, I think, like you said, Vargas in the lineup. It improves the outlook of Rojas. He's an only option. I don't think he's a mixed league play. Yeah. Chris Taylor, depends on your league size, right? He's one of these guys that always finds his way to 450 at bats, it seems. And there'll be an opportunity, it looks like, for him to do it again this year with the Dodgers.
And as we do all this shuffling, Ray, I'm just going to warn people. Just a warning. I'm giving you this at the end of February so you don't fall off your chair like 2 weeks from now. Ray, we're going in the direction of Jason Hayward having a role, like a real role with the LA Dodgers this year in the outfield.
Possible. I mean, and everyone loves the swing changes and the approach and all that. And, he signed a $184 million contract. And I was actually doing the show with Steve Phillips in Nashville, if I remember correctly. First time I met Steve. And we were like, okay. Like, he's a good player, but that's not who he is. And I think he was weighed down by that. I remember watching him, take batting practice growing up, and the ball just would explode off his bat. So I really surprised to see so many struggles for him. Not surprised he didn't live up to the lofty expectations, but there was a time where he was a pretty solid player, and there's a chance in a part-time role he might get a little bit of that back this season.
I've never seen a bigger guy with less power than Jason Hayward. He just doesn't have any power. Dodgers have been raving about him, so just warning everybody, it's coming for Jason Hayward's gonna be in your lives, I think, this year. No Gavin Lux and other injuries to deal with. Thought we'd spend a little time talking about draft value now. Glasnow and Musgrove, Ray. I think it's doubtful for either guy to be ready for the opening day or opening turn. We already know that with Glasnow. Musgrove, we're not getting official word, but let's just treat it like he's going to miss some time. I think it's fair to say, because he's not going to be able to do any throwing to build up his arm, all those things. If you got a broken toe, you're not out there throwing 70 pitches, to stay in shape. So he's going to be set back. Right now, Ray, both those guys in ADP are top 35, and they're very close to each other. I think Musgrove's 33rd overall. Now, this does include some relievers, so probably more like 30 amongst starting pitchers, and Glasnow more like 33. These are guys that really, if you got them as your SP3, you'd be happy with. What are they now, though, Ray? Let's start with Glasnow, because this is not just this injury. This is doing nothing last year. This is coming off a severe arm injury the year before. Where do you stand with Tyler Glasnow right now?
Let's be positive for once, for me. Let's say, hypothetically, that the Rays said to themselves, look, Glasnow looks great. He's in great shape. All this stuff, it's all fantastic. But he can't throw more than 150 innings this year. Just can't. Is this a positive? Because now we don't have to worry about him being shut down at any point. We don't have to worry about starts being skipped. We don't have to worry about 70-pitch outings. Maybe. So maybe the delay to the season for Glasnow ends up being somewhat of a positive. Now it's not a positive, but if we're trying to turn the frown upside down. Glasnow is outside the top 40 at SP in the rankings over at fantasyguru.com. It's something I'm going to continue to massage here, right? The rankings are continually updated. If you haven't signed up with us yet, by the way, you can use the promo code XFL, get you a 30% discount on all the products, baseball products, football, NHL, DFS, whatever you want over there at fantasyguru.com. So right now I've got him at 44 at SP. I don't know. Again, I'm going to take some time to think about this because, again, if he throws 135 innings, let's say this year, right? That's what it ends up being. How different is that than the guy I got ranked 50 who's going to throw 142? Yeah. So that's the advantage he has amidst the concerns.
I think those mid 40s, before you even said it, that's kind of where I dropped them too. I look at some of the names there, and it's like Kyle Wright and Clayton Kershaw and Blake Snell and Severino. I mean, these are guys who can get injured too. They miss starts. They're not going 175 innings. So I think it's very fair to put them in that spot. I kind of think we're looking at more like 120, 125 with Glasnow, which may have been the case. People need to understand this. It may have been the case even if he made it through spring camp and was going to be a part of this rotation on opening day. That maybe this keeps him around longer, which probably is better for fantasy players. Might even be better for the Rays, to just say we can bring this guy. And don't be surprised either. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks. So let's play this out. I want everybody to understand where we're sitting here. That puts you at the end of April. Now, that may be 6 to 8 weeks, and then we can send him on a minor league assignment. I don't know if that's 6 to 8 weeks and he's back for the bigs. I would assume that's 6 to 8 weeks before we're going out there and throwing much. So, Ray, there's going to be 2 or 3 minor league starts. Remember, it's not like we were built up through 4 weeks of camp and then the injury happened. We've done nothing here with Tyler Glasnow. Don't be stunned, and this sounds crazy, Ray. Memorial Day. Now, that's really long term. It is, admittedly. But you're dealing with a side issue for a guy who has been injured now for 2 years. He's going to have to build up in the minors. He's the entire future of this organization. He is their best pitcher. They've given him a big contract, remember. Tampa, committed to this guy. They don't commit to everybody. They committed to this guy. So he's very important to the bottom line. Ray, they may protect the hell out of him. And Tampa, some teams would say, oh, my God, we lost our ace. We're finished. Tampa, Ray, they don't love that they don't have Tyler Glasnow, but these guys embrace the idea of, okay, man, let's get the puzzle pieces out. Let's put it together, baby. Let's survive. They feed off this. They grow off this. Again, Memorial Day sounds nutso, and we're not here in 12 weeks, but I'm given the reality of the situation, Ray, and how Tampa may handle this, what they may expect of Glasnow. And they say, hey, we hold him to Memorial Day, then we just roll. We take him for the rest of the year. It's a really uncertain timeline, despite the fact that we're hearing 6 to 8 weeks. He's still kind of a dangerous draft just because you wonder, will they delay, and you just get tired of waiting. And there you are sitting at the end of May, and you get your first start with Tyler Glasnow.
Or there's a setback, which costs another couple weeks too. So yeah, all that's in play, and that's why, if you're doing a draft tonight, even if you have him ranked 43rd, do you take him there? It's one of those things, you have to look at how your rotation is put together and how the room is handling the pitching position, because you have to plan in, let's use the 120 you were talking about. You have to plan in that that's where we're at, right? And I said 150 is the top end anyway. So remember, what we're talking about here is 30 innings, but that's a lot. That's 5-6 starts. That's a lot when it comes to the course of a season. So you have to understand where your staff is at, the likelihood of durability from your staff. Did you grab Joe Musgrove? Did you grab Freddie Peralta? Are we piling up a bunch of guys that are going to be throwing 130 innings? So that has to be factored in. I would assume, by the way, just to put it out there, I assume Yanni Chirinos gets first shot to take the spot, in essence, be the new Ryan Yarbrough, maybe, because Chirinos hasn't pitched since 2019. He's been hurt himself. But I agree with you, Kyle. This team, the Rays, will opener. They'll tandem start. They'll figure a way. They've done it for years. It's so funny. This was the first time they weren't going to do it. They were going to go 5 starting pitchers. They were just going to let it happen.
Again.
Now they're back. Now they're back to where they've been.
Yeah. And I will say this with Glasnow, if you're drafting over the next 2 days, when the news is fresh like this, I believe, and you don't know unless you watch 1,000 drafts, and maybe we'll check some ADP numbers later in the week, but I believe when the initial news hits, the initial fall is pretty great. As you get deeper into draft season, let's say we get to the 3rd week of March, that's when people start moving him back up. Because now you're feeling better about the situation. You think, oh, I'm going to sneak this guy in. The immediate, it's all bad news today. 3 weeks from now, it'll be like, oh, there's a light on the horizon. We'll hear something about his rehab. Oh, he could be back by April 20th, all this stuff. But I think immediately right now, if you're drafting this week, you get a discount on Glasnow. I wouldn't take him anything before SP5. I wouldn't. I think that's how I'd play it. Musgrove's a little different, Ray. Now, again, we're sitting here a little bit in the dark. We don't know exactly how severe the fracture is, which foot it's on, which toe. So understand 2 hours from now, maybe we get a bit more information on this and we change our feelings. But I look at Musgrove, Ray, and there is not that, oh, he is so important to the future, we protect it. There's none of that with Musgrove. Musgrove is a guy, when he's ready, he's ready. And if he's pitching well, he goes 5.5, he goes 6, he goes 7. That's what he is. There's really no limitations on Joe Musgrove. To me, I feel a lot, maybe a lot's a little strong. I feel much safer going the Musgrove route and counting on a recovery and counting on innings and work and all that than I do a guy like Glasnow. So I would drop him less than I would with Glasnow, barring, I mean, if we hear, oh, he's going to miss 2 months at least, the same amount of time, I probably still like him a bit more than Glasnow on my draft board.
I agree with that. I have him ahead still of Glasnow in the rankings at fantasyguru.com. Again, this is all happening in real time. So currently we've got him 37th. Now that is pending, at 37th at the starting pitcher. That is pending information here. Musgrove's floor is always, again, in my opinion, better than Glasnow, right? The floor is higher. The ceiling isn't. And that's the attraction of Tyler Glasnow. It's why I drafted Tyler Glasnow myself in the labor draft last week instead of Clayton Kershaw. All right, we'll see how that goes, right? But that, Glasnow could throw 30 less innings than Musgrove and still strike more guys out, right? So, you have to, again, balance this out. But I agree with what you said about Musgrove. I love the skill set. He's been extremely stable the last couple of years, in particular with the Padres. As long as he's healthy, there's no reason to think we don't see more of that. There's no reason to protect him. This also gives the Padres, who want to go deep into this regular season, into the postseason, all that, gives them less to worry about there too, because they back off the start a little bit with him. So maybe in the long run, it helps the team out a little bit if they can weather the storm in the short term. But it's all about risk, and it's where you're willing to take the risk. Because again, the toe issues, and I've told this story many times. I never had a toe issue. I went on a long hike one day with a pair of shoes that didn't fit with my girlfriend, got an ingrown toenail, and that thing hurts like a mofo. Okay, I've had to have matrixectomies. I've had to have surgeries on my toe. Like, it hurts a lot. Anytime someone jacks a toe up, it's a big deal. Okay, and especially when balance is important and pressure points and all that. So it sounds minor. It's not his arm, which we all, okay. But a toe issue can be something. So there's still that uncertainty, despite everything Kyle and I said, that he comes back and things are just a little bit off.
Well, and the hope, and it's the reason I would take Musgrove like as an SP4, whereas Glasnow to me is more of an SP5. And I'm not saying that's what everybody's going to do and that's how it has to be. I'm saying how I'm handling it. Because some people want to say, screw that, I'm taking him as my SP3, all this stuff. So I look at Musgrove, right, and it is a bone or maybe multiple bones, small bones in that toe. But once it's like healed, whenever that may be, we should be good. We should be good.
Should be.
So that's a little more, even the oblique, it's healed. But Ray, we've been down that road before. Oh yeah, I feel great. Let's go out and throw. Oh, it still hurts.
Right.
Going back 2 weeks. Like, that is an injury that can recur. A fractured toe, it doesn't really recur. This is a freak incident. So I feel a lot better about Musgrove. With the Padres, Ray, does this, we've kind of chuckled about their pitching depth. This probably locks in
Seth Lugo?
Martinez is locked in, I think. Now Cole Hamels is in.
Cole Hamels is there. Seth Lugo is there.
They got some options.
They could go 6-man rotation at the start. Use all of them.
Michael Wacha. So
I
I look at the Lugos and Martinez's of the world, and maybe they get a little more run. Those are like, oh, there's nobody else to draft for me. I'll take them as an SP8.
Yeah, that's not right. Agreed.
Not working for me.
Right.
We've got to talk Seiya Suzuki, who we've spent all this time on Lux and Musgrove and Glasnow. Suzuki, Ray, who we touched on yesterday, oblique injury, had the MRI, didn't come back good. He drops out of the WBC. The next announcement is that he won't be ready for opening day. Seiya Suzuki, a disappointment. I think it's fair to say last season. Now we've got an injury. And again, he's in a similar boat as Glasnow. Maybe the return date is sooner than Glasnow, just because there's not as much protection you have to go through with a hitter versus a pitcher. But where does Seiya Suzuki fall now? To me, he was kind of a hard guy to gauge even before this setback we had.
Yeah, he did an interview this morning, and it was through an interpreter. So, maybe something got lost in translation. But he basically said that he was shocked at the injury. So I don't know if that means, I just saw this tweet a couple minutes ago, I don't know if this means he was shocked it happened or he was shocked that it was a thing. So I guess you can read it both ways. The Cubs, and again, I don't know. The Cubs are saying that there's a moderate strain and they'll let us know. Like, this has been days and and this is my problem. We talked about this last week. This is my problem with teams. Tell us what's happening. There is no way you've been looking at this thing for 5 days and don't have a timeline. It's impossible, right? Tell us what it is. I don't care if it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6. Just tell us.
Kind of a timeline. It's not opening day.
Yeah, it's like it's not happening. Yeah, so the no timeline thing, again, how do we handle that? You have to handle it with caution, because the no timeline could be 3 weeks. No timeline could be 7. We have no idea. And when you start talking about a player who obviously didn't perform as he hoped, didn't perform as we hoped in the fantasy game either. How does he handle that? Because we know how this goes too. A lot of players put pressure on themselves, as all of us would do. If we didn't do a good job yesterday, we want to do better today. Does he push this when he's not healthy, right, and then suffer a setback? Does he push it when he comes back too quickly and not stay physically okay, but get all kinds of messed up mechanically or something because he's trying to hit a home run every time he's up? Like, so this is a concern. I think that when you look at Suzuki, though, I do think he can hit 20-plus home runs this year. I think it's possible he hits 15-plus home runs. I liked his approach last year. I think his batting average can improve a little bit. I think he's right. He's basically a high-end outfielder for right now for me, Kyle.
Well, and that's fine. His ADP, though, Ray, is totally different than that. Like, and obviously the injury is not baked into this ADP, so he's going to start to fall. But before this injury, Ray, I mean, he's going ahead of Nick Castellanos, ahead of Chris Bryant, ahead of Giancarlo Stanton, ahead of Brandon Nimmo. You know, and I'm not saying these guys are definitely better, but I am surprised that Suzuki was getting that much of a lift in ADP. Like, he's going inside the top 30 amongst outfilders before this injury. And I look at last season, it was fine, but nothing where I said, oh yeah, this guy can emerge as an outfielder too. I didn't see that at all with Suzuki.
Well, if you look at some projections, let's pull them up over at Fangraphs. I mean, I'm a little surprised that the projections are where they are and that the ADP is where it is at. Because my assumption without looking at the projections was that the projections took his 9 steals and made him 17, right? And that's why people were excited. They were thinking 2015, 2020 potentially. I'm looking at projections with 10, 9, 11. So they didn't really do that. So we're talking about a guy going based on the projections, 25-10. Which is basically Seth Brown, better because the batting average, but basically what Seth Brown did last year. So, yeah, that is surprising.
It's a weird one.
But again,
I would never look at him, Ray, and say top 30 outfielder. Now, I'm not saying my opinion is the only one that matters, but he's going well inside the top 30, and that just seems to be a miss in my book. And now it looks like an obvious miss, but I would have said that well before the injury, and we'll start to see him. Like, he's got to fall outside the top 35, I think, with this injury. I'd have to say that would be a spot, and I'd probably drop him lower and closer to 40 or so.
Yeah, and I just to say it, I think that overall his approach was pretty good last year. Okay, and he didn't strike out. It was 24.5%, something like that, so it wasn't crazy. He walked about 10% of the time, which is a good number. He still had a spread of 70 points between his batting average and on-base percentage, which was expected coming over. The issue was the 262 average. I think most people thought he'd hit 285. If he hits 285 and now his on-base percentage is 355, it's a whole new ball game of offense. That means he's on base more. He runs more. We got bigger bases. We got, now it's 9 steals again becomes 17 steals. His 262 average becomes 282. He's a totally different player. So I think that people had that expectation coming into last season. There were a lot of people really excited about him last year. And I think they're willing to give him kind of a mulligan because it was a first year in the country. There was injuries. They're willing to say there's a lot of reasons to think that it will be better this year than last year.
I will say I don't think there's a lot of regular season time missed here. If everything goes according to plan, rehab and recovery and all of that, I would say by the back end of the first half of April, like April 10th, April 5th, in that range, maybe he could be back for the Cubs.
Here's Megan Montemuro just tweeted out what David Ross, the manager of the team, is saying. The goal about Suzuki just came out. The goal for us is when he's back, we don't lose him again. So pushing it towards some date that we all look forward to doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We want him to get back completely healthy. If that's opening day, great. If it's 5 days in, great. If it's 2 weeks in, fine.
Yeah.
So it does certainly sound like opening day is in doubt, though they're not anticipating at this moment in time that it's something that's going to take a long period of time to come back from.
They don't have much depth on that Cubs team. I mean, the starting lineup's fine, but you take Suzuki out of this and you're looking at Zach McKinstry and Christopher Morrell as, Morrell as your backup outfielders. That's pretty significant fall when you lose the cleanup man, if you will, in your lineup. Not much depth there in the Chicago. They're a fine team. I mean, they got Mancini, Bellinger, Hosmer, Wisdom. I mean, they got power. They're going to move some guys up. But you don't have much on the bench there in that Chicago team. So if he is missing 2 weeks, into the middle part of April, that would certainly affect that lineup there in Chicago. Those are the injuries for today. But as we always like to remind you, there are more injuries to come, maybe even more today. Who knows? We are underway with baseball today. Florida action has started for a lot of squads. Arizona action gets going in about 2 hours. We will continue to follow all the ins and outs there, talk about any injuries, lineup news, all that stuff. When we return, though, here on Lunch Money, let's continue our discussion of all things second base. We will take a look at the surprises of a season ago. Guys who were not expected to be top 10, top 20, top 30, even top 40, yet became guys who pretty well all of us owned. And this year, some of them are into the top 10. So there is the count on, hey, they're going to follow it up. They're going to do it again. We'll see what Ray says about some of those names and more. All coming your way on Lunch Money right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
As a longtime baseball fan, here's my message to other baseball fans, to steal a line from the Packers' future Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Everyone needs to relax after what we saw this past weekend as spring training games out in Arizona and down in Florida got going, and we're inching closer and closer to Major League Baseball opening day. The rule changes in Major League Baseball is not for myself. It's not for you out there, the hardened baseball fan, whether you're a fan 5, 10, 15, 30, or even 50 years. From all around this great country. It's not for those that are going to be locked in. It's for trying to generate more fans. So if they want the pitcher to go out there and work in rhythm with a guy on base, begin to wind up within 20 seconds, nobody on base, begin to wind up within 15 seconds, or have the batter make sure that he's back in the batter's box within 8 seconds, then making the base pass first, second, and third bigger, eliminating the shift. All of this is to make the game better. We've seen leagues, whether it be the National Football League, do they get to the same league as it is today in 2023, or what we saw in 2022 as it was 30 years ago? No, it's not. Is NBA basketball the same? No. How many games do you see being played? 83-79 finals. You don't see that at all. So every league adjusts to try and bring what? More fans into the sport. And that is something that Major League Baseball is going out there and trying to do. I've been critical at times of Rob Manfred, whether or not as a MLB commissioner, whether he likes the sport based on some of the rhetoric that he has spewed in years gone by. But I got to be honest with you, as a longtime baseball fan, I've been a Yankee fan my entire life. Watched a ton of Met games here in the tri-state area. Watched baseball all around. Can't wait for October baseball. Think it's absolutely unbelievable what is transpiring now and what's happening now, and the rule changes being brought about baseball. It's going to bring back to the game to when I became a fan, where the stolen base was something, moving guys over was something, having men on base, batting averages ascending, not being an all or nothing league where either you're striking out or hitting the ball over the fence. And that is what baseball is trying to do. So as everybody tries to adjust, and change is difficult, whether you're changing your diet, exercise routine, changing your relationships, changing a job, change is different. I get that. And it's hard. But let's take a step back. Let's understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do here. And they're trying to repopulate or repopularize the sport. That's what they're trying to do. They're clearly the third most popular sport in the United States. They want to make it less regionalized. This is the way they need to go about doing it. I'm all for it. For more content like this, download the Bettor Sports Network app or go to bettorsports.com.
Lunch Money, where we don't take your money, we make you money. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
So at the risk of being presumptuous, which I don't like doing, but I will in this case, Ray, I'm going to make the claim that even here at the end of February, Patrick Corbin, still pitching for the Nationals, by the way, for everybody who forgot, I'm going to make the claim, Ray, that he is in mid-season form already. He is looking Patrick Corbin-like today on the hill, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, two pretty good guys that will hit plenty of home runs this season, just like they have the last couple of years. Both hit home runs off Patrick Corbin on back-to-back pitches. So Why is Corbin still pitching? Because he's making $782 trillion and they can't afford to trade him. They can't dump him. He's a serviceable fifth starting pitcher, I think. I think that's about where we're at right now. The Nationals, of course, need him to be more than that. He's a glorified batting practice pitcher when he doesn't have things going just right at this point.
Why is it he's the only guy who can stay healthy, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
Why can't we keep Tyler Glasnow healthy instead of Patrick Corbin? These are ugly, Ray. Last 2 years, he has made 62 starts. That might be tops in baseball. I don't know. It very well could be. 62 starts with a 15-35 record, an ERA that is over 6. That is 325 innings of an over 6 ERA. The whip is 1.58. Man, everything here, Ray, is hideous. He leads baseball with 35 losses. He might lead baseball with 62 starts as well. That's just nutso.
There are 16 pitchers that have made 62 starts the last couple years. The leader is Sandy Alcantara with 65.
Okay.
Jordan Lyle. I mean, listen to this group. Cole Irvin, Jordan Lyles, Patrick Corbin are all sitting there with 62. A murderer's row of pitchers there. The only guy on the list with an ERA above 4.5 ahead of him with Nick Pivetta at 4.5 and Herman Marquez at 4.7. So the 6 ERA, the 6 ERA of Corbin ain't very good, Kyle.
Worst pitcher in baseball?
Worst full-time pitcher in baseball?
Might be.
Yes.
Might be. But again, mid-season form. Everybody else is trying to get their groove on, trying to get up to speed. Patrick Corbin already there, serving up 4 baggers to the St. Louis Cardinals today down in Florida. More to come from spring training, but right now it is time to re-establish our positional focus. All this week on the program, Ray and I are going to be talking the second base spot. Last week was given over to first baseman, the week before catchers. You can probably find most of that on demand with your Bettor Sports Network subscription. Just $2.99 a month, by the way. And you get everything on demand. Me and Ray, all of our shows, specials, everything. Listen at your leisure. Today, Ray, at second base, we're going to talk about the guys who surprised us. Believe it or not, not everybody knows exactly what's going to happen in the month of March. We have surprises at every position. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time talking about Jose Altuve. Ray, one thing we didn't bring up, as good as he was, and again, huge discussion on Altuve, so we're not going to belabor the point today. But, Ray, we should remind people he was the 12th second baseman going off the board last year. He was one of the biggest steals in fantasy baseball that we had in draft season of 2022.
Yeah, and I should pull up my rankings where I had him. I know I probably had him like 4th or something. So I was way ahead of the field when it came to Altuve because he's just too good to think he stinks. The steals catapulting almost to 20 last year were a surprise. But the bat, as we discussed yesterday, was there. But it does go to show you that sometimes, we look at this. Is Whit Merrifield going to be that guy this year? Is DJ LeMahieu going to be that guy this year? These veteran players that kind of coming off down seasons, no one's excited about. Do they have a resurgence in pulling Altuve in 2023?
Well, and it reminds us again, honestly, this whole ADP rankings discussion, so much is driven by last year. So much. There are a handful of guys that everybody's in on, and they're far exceeding what they did last season just because of the situation, more playing time, whatever it was. But most of these guys just slot right into what they did last year. That's for the most part with these rankings. So Altuve's way up this year because he was great last year. Another guy who went just behind Altuve on draft day a year ago and is just behind him this year, a year later, is Tommy Edman of the St. Louis Cardinals. Edman was the 13th second baseman off the board last season, going in the top 5 at that position this season. And Ray, it's a little bit of Altuve in terms of steals. I mean, that is where the absolute value is found in Edman, back-to-back 30 steal seasons. The rest of it's good, but nothing's really great. It's kind of that steals gives them that extra lift.
Yeah, by the way, I looked it up. 5th is where I had Altuve last year. Edman, who I drafted in the Labor League last week, you can find my write-up over at fantasyguru.com. It's a free write-up again. You can use the promo code XFL if you want to sign up for any of our products over there for a discount. I did take Tommy Edman, and I wrote in the article, and we've talked about it here on the show too, how Edman was a target at that point of the draft because of how my team came together for two main reasons. One, he played 89 games at second base and he played 80 games at shortstop. So dual position eligible. And two, the steals that you spoke of. I think a third point for Edman is that, it's not just about the surface numbers, but if you look at the surface numbers, the fantasy 5x5 numbers that Edman has posted the last 2 years are almost identical. And that's impossible to do. It's impossible to do. And he almost has done it. He has been extremely stable the last couple of seasons, extremely productive the last couple of seasons. But to your point, he's not a complete ball player. There are holes to his game, i.e. getting on base, having a great batting average, and not being a guy with a lot of power.
Well, and what's kind of interesting with Edman is I'm not a huge fan of his fantasy game. And last season, I was feeling good about myself because there was a stretch there where for like a month, he couldn't hit. Could not hit at all. They dropped him to 9th in the batting order because we do want to note this. He is a leadoff man for the St. Louis Cardinals, which is prime real estate. You've got Goldschmidt, Arenado. Those two guys were top 3 in MVP. Ray, the issue was his on-base percentage there was like 315 as a leadoff guy. It's bad. I don't know if that's a threat to carry over, but, despite we score batting average. So he's fine on batting average. But Ray, as a leadoff guy, even in today's baseball where everything is different and people don't play the way they did 30 years ago, you still want to have a leadoff guy who's getting on base at like 350, 340, hopefully. He's nowhere near that. And I don't think it gets bad for him, but like he still has to keep hitting and he still has to keep running. This is like something where he can't like rest on his laurels and stay in the leadoff spot or rest on his laurels. And no, don't worry, he'll still hit 20 home runs. Don't worry, he'll still drive in, 90 runners. Like that stuff's not happening. He still has to stay sharp with stolen bases, runs, and certainly batting average.
Yeah, if we were having this discussion in 1983, no one would even bring this up. He's a leadoff guy. Oh my God, he's stealing 30 bases. He's scoring 90 runs. The world is different now. And he basically, to your point, is league average at getting on base. Now he has speed, which is a nice bonus, but he's league average getting on base. So it does depend on how the Cardinals want to run this because he's not going to fall from 1st to 5th. He's going to fall from 1st to the bottom 3rd of the order if they drop him, like you mentioned there. And, prime real estate is a perfect way to say it. He scored 90 runs each of the last 2 years, has Edmonds, getting on base at a league average rate.
Yeah.
I mean, if he had 350 on base percentage, he'd probably be...
He could have 130 runs.
Yeah, he'd be top 2 in baseball in runs scored, right? So it comes down to the willingness of the Cardinals to allow a guy who does have skills that suggest being a leadoff hitter, allow him to stick there when the one skill that's really most important, getting on base, is something he's not great at doing.
Well, I will say the way that team is made up this year, they're probably a little more apt to leave him up through the struggles in that leadoff spot. Plus, last year he did come around eventually, so there's a little bit of that built-in goodwill, if you will. So maybe he's got a bit of a longer leash there as the leadoff guy. Next up on our list of second base surprises last year, this guy was going as the 27th second baseman in ADP last year. All he did was go out and hit almost 300, hit home runs, stole bases, scored. Andres Jimenez of the Cleveland Guardians. Ray is still 24, really young. He was a part of the Lindor trade. Nobody really cared. Francisco Lindor. Jimenez is better. I mean, at least as good as Francisco Lindor. At least last season, Ray, man, he put it all together. And some people were in on him. Some people saw it kind of coming. I remember multiple times having to listen to Lenny Melnick bark my ear off about Andres Jimenez. Lenny, you were right. Kudos to Lenny. But Ray, that was probably even better than Lenny thought it could be for Jimenez last season.
And it was to a lower level, but very similar to Lindor in that when Jimenez came up, he was a speed guy that didn't have much pop. That was the thought process, right? And what did we see? We saw 17 home runs and 20 steals. So he didn't quite run as much as we hoped, but the power was way beyond what we hoped for. And given that he played 150 games, he was across the board solid. He hit 297, almost batted 300 too. I think that last year everyone got a huge bargain, right? There's no doubt about it. He lapped his cost on draft day to the point where people in keeper leagues were considering, do I keep this guy this year? Like he really took his game to that level. The problem is looking at him now is I don't see there being another level.
Yeah.
So the question
maxed
out. And if he's maxed out with the counting categories and the steals and the home runs, and his 297 average becomes 267, Not that he's a bad play, but then we start getting into the zone where what the price we're paying today just gets us to today. It doesn't get us a better performance than that. And there are guys all across the draft that you draft him, you draft him as guy 42 at his position. He was guy 42 at his position. Cool. So I'm not saying that drafting him as a mistake or a problem. I'm just saying that you have to set your expectations reasonably, and that likely means his overall production from last season is going to go down a little bit.
Yeah, he's not really a star at the position. He's good at the position and good at all 5 categories. But is there that stardom in any of them? Probably not. I mean, Ray, as good as he was last year, as good as the Guardians were, he didn't get to 70 runs.
He had a 371 on base percentage, like 50 points clear of
and that run scored. I'm not picking on Jimenez, but that's kind of the team they have now. They have gone out and tried to improve that. But that kind of speaks to the aspect of, in effect, he was deficient in runs scored. I mean, anytime under 70, you're looking for way more than that. Good on the other front, but deficient in a couple of those other categories. Next up, Ray, we have a couple of second basemen. Both these guys were outside the top 30 at the position last year. Both guys won batting titles. Let's start with the guy in the National League, Jeff McNeil of the New York Mets. I think he was 31 last season at second base. Ray, batting title shines, 326. Who's not going to like that? What about the other stuff? I mean, is it all batting title and nothing else for Jeff McNeil?
My guy, Jeff McNeil, Ray said for years, grab this guy in the 23rd round. He had that dreadful season in 2021. And when you have the overall game he has, and then you have a down season, people are out, right? He doesn't have steals to make up for the batting average drop, doesn't have power to make up for the batting average drop. So the 2 things that McNeil has going for him. One, he's a 300-plus career hitter. I don't know how many people realize he's 307 career hitter when in an era where 250 we're hoping for the league. And secondly, he qualifies at second base in the outfield. So he's a very nice player to have on your team. He's a guy you can move around, especially in daily change leagues, right? Is he going to replicate the batting average? No, he's not. It's not smart to expect that. Could he hit 300? Could hit 285, right? That's just the way the game works. If he's hitting 285 with 10 home runs and 3 steals, he's got to play every day or nah. Yeah. And even if he plays every day, like look at last season, we're talking 73 runs, 62 RBIs. So he is a player that you can target because you have a need in batting average. Because again, I think 285 is like the floor with him. He's a very good hitter. But the lack of power, the lack of speed, and the lack of counting category numbers does limit, just like Jimenez's upside.
It's interesting with the Mets because they are absolutely one of the favorites in the National League, and everybody knows about them spending money and talent. And Ray, I'm not saying the lineup is bad, but you get past the first 4 in that Mets lineup, and I don't think there's a sure thing after it. Like 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all kind of maybe. And I bring that up because McNeil, we kind of think, oh, he's nothing but average. Like I have looked at lineup projections for the Mets, Ray, and they've had Jeff McNeil like literally anywhere from 5 to 9. And I mean, you think 5, Jeff McNeil, like he'd be behind Pete Alonso. Like how many teams are going to walk Pete Alonso to get to Jeff McNeil? And people might say, oh no, he's not a number. Your other options are like Dan Vogelbach, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha. I mean, this is like, pretty uninspiring. Like McNeil's batting position could be a lot different than what we envision when we think nothing more than batting average. Like that may be true, but my God, that guy could be hitting 5th on this team.
Yeah, look at this. If you look at last year, the way he was utilized, talk about a guy that flexibility, right? 5 times first, 1 time second, 21 times third, 3 times fourth, 40 times 5th. Most of any spot in the batting order was 5th. 33rd, 6th, 19th, 7th, 23rd, 8th, and once 9th, just to round it out. He hit in every spot in the order. Yeah. And his 2 most likely spots where he spent legitimately half the season were 5th and 6th. He doesn't profile as a 5th or 6th hitter at all. He profiles as number 2. Stick him in the 2 spot because he moves the ball around the field. He produces batting average. He also gets on base, 380 plus on base percentage in 4 of his 5 seasons. He seems an ideal number 2 hitter, but he hit everywhere else in the order instead of 2.
Yeah. And unlike, well, he and the next guy, Luis Ariz, hit. You sometimes think, okay, they got the hit tool. Give me the steals. These guys don't do that at all. Let's go to Ariz, who is making the move from Minnesota to Miami. Last year, he was one of my favorites, and I got Luis Ariz in a few leagues. Now, I don't want it to sound like I nailed it. I actually missed it. The reason I was in on Arise is hearing that he could hit like third in the lineup. We even heard he could hit fourth in the lineup for the Twins. I was like, I'm all over this. I'll take a guy who can get hits and maybe some cheap ribbies. He literally costs nothing. So Luis Arise last year, 38th at second base. This year, Ray, he hasn't made much of a jump, really, because last season, as good as it was with a 316 average, best in the American League, everything else outside of runs, pretty thin here. Like the runs were there. Now you take them out of Minnesota, you throw them in a new league, you throw them in a new hitting environment with a new team whose offense is probably weaker than the Twins. It's kind of hard to get excited about Luis Arise this year, isn't it?
Yeah, we normally talk about a guy like John Birdie, who we talked about yesterday, or Miles Straw, and so these are one category guys. Kind of be careful. McNeil and Arise aren't exactly the same thing, but they're kind of along that same route where, you know, the positive to both McNeil and Arise is that everyone hits 25 home runs, right? So you can find power. The batting average is hard to find. And I'll say this with Arise, who qualifies at first and second. He played 40-plus games at both spots. Very unique, first and second. Lost third base, unfortunately. Played 7 games there last year. But when you talk about Arise, everyone knows he can hit. Everyone expected him to hit, and he's hit.
Yeah.
Now, there's a limit there. He is the, again, quintessential number 2 hitter. Spray the ball around the field, put the ball in play, don't strike out a lot. More walks than strikeouts for his career. Like this guy, if he was playing in 1983, would be a star, right? This is
Ray, he is fun to watch. Like his at-bats, we think of watching Aaron Judge. Luis Arise is a fun guy to watch hit. He just fights and fights and fights. He'll foul pitches off forever. Like if you're really into that pitcher versus hitter thing, he's great to watch.
Yeah, and 375 on base percentage last year, 374 for his career. Again, we're talking 55 points clear of a guy like Tommy Edman. Huge difference. You look at Arise's batted ball data last year, career best exit velocity, career best launch angle, career best hard hit rate, just missed by a 10th. But all of those numbers that I just mentioned are all league average. Like he's one of these guys that bloop in a blast. No, it just bloops. So there's no reason to think his game is going to transform from what it is. Totally fine for what it is, because again, he's also a 300. He's a 314 career hitter. He's better than McNeil. But it really is about that one category, which does make it difficult to pay up. Last year, you got him. This year, you kind of got to pay up for it a little bit, even though it's not exorbitant. And then you start running into the idea of, is he a good fit for my team? Because you have to pay a price for that fit.
And I think, Ray, unfortunately, he's truly like a one category guy. And it's a category that helps, don't want to dispute having a guy who can hit 300 in a league that hits 230. That's a big help. But I think everything else is so quiet with Luis Arise. One last one to get to. And honestly, although he doesn't have near the attention of McNeil or Arise, this guy's not too far behind him. Thairo Estrada was the 60th second baseman off the board in 2022. It's with the Giants. This year, Ray, he has jumped from 60, and I'm not going to say he's top 10 or anything, but now he's just outside the top 10. He's like 11th. I think I said the other day, maybe it was yesterday, you look at your list of second base, you're like, Thairo Estrada? Wait, Thairo Estrada? Ray, last season, some power, some speed. The average was fine. Some runs, some ribbies, 104. Like, he had done nothing. He was on nobody's radar for 3 years. Last year was a great year for Estrada.
I'm a Giants guy, and I just looked it up. He was 46th in my rankings last year at second base. And because he hadn't done anything, there wasn't an expectation of him developing power. I think the speed was there, but it wasn't like he's going to go steal 20 bases. Well, he did. He almost went 15-20. And the Giants were, I remember once the season began, we started talking about him last year. Unfortunately, it was after the draft, but the Giants all preseason, all spring last year were like, this guy's legit. And it's like, well, teams say that stuff about their guys all the time. They believed in him. They let him play every day, and he went out and was very good. He falls into the exact same boat of the last 2 guys, though, in that this is what he is. This is what he's got. He's not going to go out this year and hit 290. He's not going to go out this year and hit 20 home runs. He's not going to go out there this year and steal 25 bases. It's not happening. He's not elevating his game like Andres Jimenez, right? It's not going to another level. So the question becomes, can he maintain where he is? And, I think anytime you see a guy steal 20-plus bases, even with the changes, you have to be a little bit cautious about a repeat, especially when that guy's got a 320 on base percentage like Estrada did. You look at the power component. I don't see any growth there. In fact, he's going to stagnate, if anything, in the power column. So then it comes down to where is he at in the order and what does it look like for his runs scored and RBI totals. I think that, again, if he repeats what he did last season, it's a to be won, right? That's what the numbers say, but it's rather unappealing in total because nothing that he does, Kyle, stands out. It has to be him playing 140 plus games so he can get those numbers up to the point where it matters.
Yeah. And I noted this yesterday, and Estrada was part of this discussion. Like, okay, the first 6 or 7 at second base, I can do that. I can handle any of these guys. And then it starts to get like, and you say wishy-washy. He does this, but he doesn't do that. Oh, is he really like Estrada's one of those guys? And I keep looking at that group of like from second baseman 8 to, I don't know, 13, 14, however you want to put it. And it's like, Ray, if I don't take this guy, I'll just get the next guy who's kind of similar. I'll get him 2 rounds later. And Estrada kind of falls into that boat for me to where he's being taken in the first 175 picks. But it's like, if I'm sitting there at 175 and I need a second baseman, I'm more like, I'll wait around and get India. I'll wait another round and get Merrifield. Oh, I'll wait around after that and get Ketel Marte. Like, unless I strike early on second base, which I might. I mean, I got no issues with Albies or Altuve or guys like that. You know, I might strike on those guys. But there comes a point at this position, and it's that point of the Tyro Estradas of the world, where I just kind of say, I can wait this out. And maybe I'll go with guys I just kind of have a soft spot for, something I like. And this also goes to the point of I'll draft whoever kind of fits my team. If I need batting average, I'll go Luis Ariz.
Right.
You know, if I need stolen bases, maybe I go Whit Merrifield. If I need home runs, maybe Josh Rojas or something. I don't know. I mean, so you just kind of bounce around based off need, but Estrada is probably going to go undrafted because there's nothing that attracts me to like thinking, oh yeah, this is excitable. This is something. It's hard to get pumped about the guys who are just good in the 5 categories. And that's kind of what he is just fine in the 5 categories that he offers.
But the interesting thing is, you're right. I don't disagree with anything you said, but he was still a top 12 second baseman last year in fantasy. So, you know, that, and I think that catches people up sometimes because they don't, you know, they don't look at player rater tools or whatever, but it's like, you know, in the end, yeah. And it's just like Jimenez. Like in the end, yeah. I think everyone is more excited about Jimenez, including myself, than we are about Estrada. But if we're talking there being a gap in ADP, if you're waiting a couple of rounds, you missed out on Jimenez. Estrada's not a bad consolation gift at all.
Yeah.
As you said, he doesn't bring batting average like, you know, Ariz does or something like that. So it is about the fit, and that's kind of a running theme we've had here the first couple of days talking about the second base spot.
Do you have in front of you that list of the top 12 overall second basemen last year?
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, pull that up because I want to wonder aloud if this is just a position where there's going to be a lot of flux, where like 4 of the guys who were top 12 last year actually remain top 12. Are we looking at guys that will probably rotate out, new guys will rotate in? What is that top 12 from last year at second base?
My computer's a little slow here, Kyle. Give me about another 4
Darn
seconds.
you, Ray's
Okay,
computer.
I got it. I know,
Okay.
4 seconds. This thing. I was there. It didn't help me out. So the top 10, let's go top 12. 12th was Ariz, 11 McNeil, 10th Ty France, who doesn't qualify there anymore. Jake Cronenworth was 9. Estrada was 8. Gleyber Torres 7. Jimenez 6th. Drury 5th. Edmund 4th. Altuve 3rd. Simeon 2. Trey Turner 1.
Okay. And Turner's gone. And as you noted, so is Ty France. We're saving Brandon Drury for third base. So, you know, and there that runs into a lot of things with second, short, and third. You know, these guys get double positional eligibility, so they kind of rank highly at a certain position. But I hear that list, and yeah, there are some guys who you feel, yeah, they're going to be top 10 again this year. There are other guys you say, oh, they were top 10 last year, and it's very easy to envision them not being top 10 this year. And so maybe we get that rotation where this year Ketel Marte is back into the top 10, or this year Jonathan India gets back on the career track. So it is a position that is a little tough to figure outside of the upper half. Now, we have a question in the chat room about Jonathan India. I will note we won't spend a ton of time on him today because tomorrow we'll talk disappointments. And Ray, Jonathan India is definitely going to fall in there as a disappointment. He was injured and beat up, but our question in the chat room is like, doesn't Jonathan India, in effect, have a higher ceiling than all these guys we just talked about? than McNeil, than Arise, than Estrada. Is India still more of a ceiling than those guys in your book?
Well, I'd like to say yes, but I don't with any level of confidence, because it was a mess. It was a mess last year. The team isn't very good. The team is not going anywhere. His skills, he's way more an on-base percentage guy than a batting average guy, in my opinion. So we have to ding him there. Though he had 12 steals as a rookie, is he going to get to 10 this year? Like Estrada could double him. Jimenez could double him. These guys could double him in the steal department. He's going to hit 258. So he's given up 40 batting average points to Arise, to McNeil. So, he's kind of in that. He's very similar to Estrada fantasy value. I'm not saying real world, because he takes the walk more, he gets on base. But in the fantasy game, I think he's very similar to Estrada in terms of his outlook. But I look at Estrada and think 15 steals, and I think 9 with India, 7 with India. So if it all came together, I wouldn't be surprised if he outpaced these other guys. But I don't put him on a different tier than these other guys, given the concerns I laid out.
He will no doubt be a part of tomorrow's discussion. We gave you the surprises today from 2022. We'll look at the letdowns from a season ago at second base coming up on Wednesday's edition of Lunch Money. Let's take a break here. When we return, back to spring training, back to baseball, news and notes, maybe a random reference. Also, the name Will Benson. When I say the name Will Benson, you know who that is? Should you know who that is? Ray knows.
On my labor team.
He's on your labor team. Ray's in on Will Benson.
My 26th round pick.
Well, maybe he's going to be a 24th round pick a week from now. Who knows? We'll introduce you maybe to Will Benson. He's making a few waves, 3-4 days into camp. Talk about it next and more on Lunch Money.
Bettor Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing shot to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Burley picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up, 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the impounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson to carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the banking. They're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer! Pitched by Downey, swinging, there's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network. However you're invested in sports, From betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more. Join our community on Bettor Sports Network.
Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Well, I would assume that the trash can lids are noisy today in Port St. Lucie. The Houston Astros coming to town. They're taking on the Mets. 5 runs in the first inning. All that damage coming off of Jose Quintana. So Houston comes out blazing. Double for Abreu. McCormick walked. Abreu with or I should say a double for Myers. McCormick walked, then Abreu with a double. We had a home run by, who is this here? David Hensley with a 2-run shot. Day was over for Jose Quintana, 2/3 of an inning. Again, the Astros on top 5-0 very early on a Tuesday afternoon. We welcome you back into Lunch Money. Elsewhere in spring training, Will Benson, who Ray has already drafted in labor. What was that, last week, Ray?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, man, you were on the Will Benson train early. The Reds outfielder, 2 more hits and a 3rd steal. 3 steals already for Will Benson this spring.
Yeah, and that's a 15-team mixed league, and that was the team where I built incredible depth on the infield, and my outfield was lacking. So, that was a player that I was looking at. I was hoping that we'll see something good from the former Guardian, now Red. I don't know if he breaks with camp with the team. It's one of those things. Nick Senzel can't get healthy, right? Yeah. And so there's theoretically an opportunity for Benson, who's a potential 2020 talent. He's a guy that can do a little bit of the speed, a little bit of the power thing. So he's very intriguing from a fantasy perspective. But, you look at the outfield, TJ Friedl, Jake Fraley.
Their outfield sucks, Ray. It is really awful in Cincinnati.
Yeah. So with the strong spring here, I mean, it's certainly possible. And I'm not sitting here and saying the guy's going nuclear, and I don't think he's going to hit 290. But like, if he's legitimately on this team from the start of the season, he could go 2020. He'll get Rookie of the Year votes, I think.
That might be the worst outfield in baseball. Like, if he can win a job if he could getting hits and getting steals. And
certainly possible.
You may say, wait a second, they're going to give it. Look at these other guys they got. These guys can't do. It's like open season in the Reds outfield and say, hey, who are the 3 best dudes in spring training? You'll sometimes see that in one spot in the outfield. Like, oh, we got a competition. Like what the Dodgers are doing in center field. We got a competition between 3 or 4 guys. Ray, I would look at the Reds, and I know they're going to say, no, we want Nick Senzel to be the guy, but give me a break after and Friedl and Fraley and all these guys. Yeah, sure, if they go out and do enough, they'll get the gig. But, like, if they don't and Benson does, I wouldn't be shocked if he is on that opening day roster, maybe even starting for this team.
Stuart Fairchild? He's their 4th outfielder right now? Like,
who?
So, and again, I needed something in the outfield. There's the power speed combination with Benson. It's a dart throw, and I'm not suggesting it's for everyone. And if you're in a 10-team league, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's an opportunity here, and this is a fantasy skill set that intrigues with Will Benson.
I'm down for it, Ray. I like the move. I am looking today. The Reds are taking on the Dodgers. Nick Lodolo against Julio Urias. That starts at just after 3:00 out east. Benson is in the lineup. He is DHing and batting 6th. How can you sit a guy who's hitting 750? You can't.
Can't do it.
The rest of that Reds outfield, Fraley's leading off, Friedel's batting 4th, and Fairchild's batting 9th. So there you go, Ray. Those are 3 of the guys you mentioned. And I really think it's a competition everywhere. Fraley, Friedl, Fairchild, left, center, right. Benson's in there. We'll see how it goes. Now, Cleveland, the old home of Mr. Benson. Roman Quinn, pretty good game yesterday. Roman Quinn, who'd been hanging around the Phillies for years and years and years. Now with the Guardians, a couple of home runs on Monday. Also 5 RBIs from him. Couple of other quick hits from spring training. Jake DeGrom set to have 2 more bullpen sessions before his first start. Ray, what was it, Saturday or Sunday that he had a bullpen session over the weekend?
I don't even know.
Yeah. So, usually those are 3 days apart, something like that, depending on how much you want to push a guy. So let's say he gets another bullpen session tomorrow. Then we've got another one Saturday. First start, I guess, would be Wednesday next week, like maybe a week, 8 days from now. Does that put him behind the 8 ball, Ray, that kind of start, or does it even matter with Jake DeGrom?
Well, you said what was your prediction? 8 innings from him this spring?
Yes. If he gets on the mound and pitches by next Wednesday, I'll be a little surprised. But right now, I guess he's on that path, it looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, the truth is with him, and we've talked about him, the truth is that you have your opinion made up with DeGrom, and it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think what he does, barring an injury, right, changes anyone's opinion. He's not going to throw a lot. The reports to date are solid. They're always solid. He is, like Clayton Kershaw, remarkable in his ability to be dominant when healthy. The problem is staying healthy. So, yeah, to me, my thoughts on DeGrom don't change if he throws 18 innings or 8 in spring. He's the same guy for me, but I don't know. I think that's pretty much the same way for most people, Kyle.
Yeah, so we'll see when we get him out there. Elsewhere, Ray gets another feather in his cap as he continues his march towards eliminating saves from fantasy baseball. We've got another team that says they won't name a closer, and it's a team that a month ago you said, oh, yeah, they got a closer. Well, unfortunately, life got in the way. Liam Hendricks is fighting a form of cancer. I think it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is what he's dealing with. So his status is totally up in the air. And, Ray, it looks like the 9th inning is thus up in the air. Chicago has come out and said, we probably don't have an everyday guy. We probably don't have a lockdown. He's our 9th inning dude. So yet again, another team making that decision. So just in like the last week, we've had LA, Arizona, Miami, and now the White Sox all say that.
Yeah, and we'll hear more before the season begins. And again, there's a lot of things I seem to be railing against, especially this year more than normal with the fantasy community. But some of this stuff, it's just illogical. Like we can debate the pitch clock, and okay, this is not debatable. This is dumb to use a saves league. It's just dumb. I'm sorry. I know we've done it for 40 years. Yeah. It's dumb in 2023. We need to move forward. We're not moving forward. We're living in the past, playing a fantasy game that's not being played out that way on the field.
So if we ever get back to a point where relievers are used in the 9th inning and certain guys have it, do we bring saves back?
No, they won't be. It'll never change.
Done forever.
No.
Well, why do you have a bigger problem with saves over wins?
I have a problem with both. There's articles.
What do you have but it appears you have a bigger problem with saves.
Well, I do have a bigger problem with saves because as a starting pitcher, there are things you can control. You have more control than you do as a reliever. There's things you can't control at all. You can go out and pitch great, and I say it all the time, 8 innings of 1-run ball and get a loss. So, but at least as a starting pitcher, you have the opportunity to go out and do your thing and generate a win on your own. You start, you throw your 5 innings, you give yourself a chance. A reliever doesn't have that. A reliever is just when the manager decides to call your name. There's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do to make the manager call your name. The starting pitcher's always on the hill to start the game, barring an opener. But I have problems with both, and I've written about both of them over at fantasyguru.com. Again, use that promo code XFL for a discount. Using wins is stupid. It's dumb. And I got an article coming out here in a couple days talking about relievers. I mean, relievers are throwing 4 innings a game almost. Relievers are chewing up 40% of the innings. Why are we counting victories? Starting pitchers don't even go deep into games anymore. You're getting all these random. There was 1,000+ victories last year for bullpens. There was like 980 last year, 2 highest marks in the history of baseball. So their relievers are throwing more innings. They're winning more games. The volatility of the win is all over the place. I mean, it's just, guys value, you're starting pitcher 22 because you won 12 games. You're starting pitcher 7 because you won 18 games. Guy pitched exactly the same. They're both categories need to be redone.
I will never do this, but thinking out loud here as a thought exercise. Most of us are in leagues where you get 9 pitching positions. Ray, why don't you just draft 6 stud relievers and like 3 starters? It's always been 6 starters, 3 relievers. If we're getting, I don't say we're getting the exact same innings, but it's closing. They're getting closer.
True.
If I can get arms with awesome ratios, awesome ERA, the saves, the holds, whatever, even cheap wins, why shouldn't we rethink that as you know what? Instead of drafting a starting pitcher in the 3rd round, I'm going to draft a reliever. Instead of drafting a starting pitcher again in the 6th round, I'm going to go a reliever. Instead of a starting pitcher in the 8th round, I'll go a reliever again. Like, why? I haven't seen that anywhere. But as the innings even out, why isn't anybody? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I've never done it. But I wonder why you don't. I mean, all we do is write columns in this world over and over and over. Look, and I haven't seen anybody put that together of load up on relief arms and make that your pitching staff.
Yeah. Again, my article on expanded role of the bullpen will come out on Thursday. I just started writing it yesterday, and there's all kinds of data in there that will basically support what you just said. The idea that, you grab 1 or 2, maybe 3 guys at the top and then reliever city this thing up, because generally speaking, you have more dominance out of the bullpen. That's not even generally speaking. You have more dominance out of the bullpen. Generally speaking, you have better ratios out of the bullpen, because not to the elite guys. I'm not talking to compare them to Cole and McCullough, or McClanahan, excuse me. But once you start getting down to the Urquides and those kind of guys, like those things even out really quickly. So we're very likely to do well in ERA, very likely to do well in WHIP. Our dominance on a per inning basis in the strikeout column destroys starting pitching. You get saves, you get wins. Yeah. I mean, more wins than ever going to bullpens, more diversity amongst bullpens in terms of saves going out there. And this is in the article too, the change, it's basically the same number of guys with 20 saves a season, but the number of guys from 5 to 9 saves a season has skyrocketed. So you talk about getting these middle relievers who don't cost anything, who get you 5 victories, who have 7 saves, who pitch 62 innings, have 76 strikeouts, have a 2.90 ERA and a 1.1 WHIP. So yes, you're totally right. We talk a lot about punting saves as a potential option. If you do this, I think you're punting strikeouts because you won't have enough innings to be the top guy, but you could still finish middle of the pack and strikeout column. You could win doing that.
Absolutely. So, and again, that's probably more of a exercise to try in a mock draft, which those are available everywhere online. You can see how your team ends up, but perhaps something to think about if you're in those leagues where it's 9 pitchers and not designated. You have to have so many starters and so many relievers on your squad. Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers with you on Lunch Money. It is now time for our random reference of the day, a random page that pops up when we hit the button over at baseballreference.com. We do it every day on the show. And today's random reference gives us a box score, June 27th of 2012. Detroit and Texas. I'm guessing nobody out there remembers that game. Very random, middle of the year kind of game. A lot of scoring, though. Holy moly. 13-9 was our final. Roy Oswalt got the win for Texas. Doug Fister with the loss. 13-9. There were 34 hits in this game between Detroit and Texas. Took about 3 hours and 40 minutes. Let's see. This is kind of the height, near the height of Miguel Cabrera. Prince Fielder was a thing here, Ray. Delman Young, who you brought up just yesterday, was hitting 5th in this Tigers lineup. I see the name Austin Jackson in that lineup. Johnny Peralta. These are kind of the good days yet of the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, they had some good players. Not Will Brennan, but Brandon Bosch was on the team too. They're playing right field. But yeah, they had some talent. Octavio Dotel pitched out of the bullpen too. He was obviously one of these power middle relievers that we talked about for a long time. They were and the Rangers too. I know the Rangers are kind of on the come up now. Right?
Don't, I see your eyes, Ray. Don't look at the box score. I got a question for you.
Okay.
Don't look at the box score.
Okay.
There was someone who pitched in this game on June 27th, 2012 for the Rangers.
Okay.
And he's still with the Rangers.
Ooh. Jesse Chavez. Who is it? I don't know.
It's not Jesse Chavez. That's a great guess.
Right?
Jesse Chavez continues making his way onto a baseball diamond near you.
Who is
You're
it?
going to hate it whenever you figure out who it is. He pitched for the Rangers on this night in 2012. Still a part of their pitching staff in 2023.
It's not coming to me. Who is it?
Martin Perez.
Oh, there. Yeah.
He was a reliever. He came in as a reliever in this game. And now, of course, he's
I was thinking reverse. I was thinking a starting pitcher who became a reliever, and I couldn't go through the bullpen and come. Good.
This Rangers team ain't too shabby either. I mean, Kinsler, Elvis Andrus, Josh Hamilton, Beltre, Michael Young, Nelson Cruz hitting 6 in this lineup. That's a good team. And what was it? 2011, the Rangers made the World Series. Should have won it. Didn't. So they were still a good team. At this point in June, let's see. Tigers were 36-39, Rangers 47-29. So Texas, kind of a first place squad.
Their number 7 hitter, David Murphy, He had a 872 OPS at the time, and their number 8 hitter was Mike Napoli, who had 24 home runs that season. Yeah, that was a pretty banging offense.
Yeah, well, at this point in June, Leonis Martin had a 1060 OPS, hitting 9. So a big win. Let's see. Within that game, 5 ribbies for the aforementioned David Murphy. He had a huge game, 4 for 5, hit 2 home runs, and drove in 5. Might have been one of the best games ever for David Murphy there.
Martin Perez, 4 runs allowed and got 2 outs. He pitched great in that game too, Kyle. Jeez.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So Joe Nathan
around 11 years. I check that out. Let's see. He gave up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning.
Yep.
That wasn't his debut, was it? Because his ERA was 54 after that. So that
2012 was that his debut?
That may have been his debut game. Check his first game ever, Martin Perez.
That was his major league debut.
Wow. So just barely he fit as a guy who pitched in 2012. And
Next game,
Martin Perez's major league debut. How about that?
And his next game out was 3 days later. He started, and he lowered his ERA for the season to 9 in the outing. Gave him a couple runs in 5 1/3.
Now, who'd have thunk it, Ray? Our random reference today, the debut of one Martin Perez back in 2012. Never forget it. He probably remembers it to this day. He kind of got his head beat in by the Detroit Tigers, but still a victory for the Rangers, 13-9. That is our random reference for today. We take a timeout here, and when we return, sold! The question is for how much? That is our Tuesday question. We head to the auction block. That sold for how much? Settle in. 6 new items, 6 new sale prices. Ray and I will do our best next right here on Lunch Money.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glauber, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr., and I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garofalo. So I went with it, got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave. Because, like, accuracy to me is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I'm hunched over. And I just, like, literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? Like, what was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterwards?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garofalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
You know, he wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Bettor Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 4 years, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him, so I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player, so he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft, so he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this, he hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle, so maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks that ever come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Bettor Sports Network.
Kyle and Ray guess how much a collectible sold for at auction.
Including some original comic book art from Amazing Spider-Man, Betty White's director's chair from the set of The Golden Girls, LeBron James's Cavaliers jersey, and a gorgeous Mike Trout rookie card.
Time now for That Sold For How Much?
Sold.
On Lunch Money, presented by FantasyGuru.com. Here's Kyle and Ray.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Josh. It is that time again for That Sold For How Much, which it bears repeating, and we never want our audience to forget that. It was just about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, that Ray and I won a perfect 6 for 6. So it has been done, but that will not stop us from taking aim at another perfect 6 for 6. What we do is we take a look at some of the latest public auctions and results, and our man Josh hunts down some items, finds the photos, gives us some price tags. Ray and I get some information. We try to match up item to cost. That is the goal of That Went For How Much. This week, we've got some Hollywood. We've got some great art. We have Rugrats. I don't know how to get cartoon stuff. A Gretzky card, Wilt Chamberlain, Harvard, all a part of this fantastic That Sold For How Much. I always love, Ray, and enjoy the vast array of many walks of life that Josh gives us.
Yeah, I do too. I see one of these things and I have no idea what it is. Well, I know what it is, but I have no idea what the worth would be. I see some sports. I see some off the norm sports. I see Hollywood. I like the list as well.
And I like ticket stubs. We got a ticket stub.
Nice.
Today.
Okay.
We also have some interesting price tags. For instance, something on this list is worth $2.8 million, and another thing on this list is worth $450. So quite a discrepancy. We'll have to all ask ourselves, would you buy that for $450? Let's get into it. We start with something that I'm certain is not $450. Feeling pretty good about this one. The classic Batman movie, 1989's Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. Ray, this is a Joker costume. And here's what's great about it. This is garments from various scenes in the movie, including the Joker's rampage through the Gotham Museum of Art and the moment that he shot Bruce Wayne at Vicky's apartment. Got a tailcoat, shirt, trousers, gloves, necktie, handkerchief, minor wear from production. There's some makeup residue on the shirt collar, holes in the jacket. I mean, this was it, Ray. I mean, it's Jack Nicholson too, and that is something, Ray. And I don't know if I'd really do this, but Ray, I would be so tempted to wear that out on the town, wouldn't you?
Right? It's probably kind of beat up too, I would imagine. I mean, that it's not 100% iconic, but it's iconic, right? I mean, that's
pretty close. Yeah,
that's pretty damn cool. And like you said, it's Jack Nicholson, one of the most famous actors of all time. That's a pretty damn cool thing to have.
Yeah, pretty rad. I like that.
Rad, good word.
It pops. Up next, I don't know if we can call this rad. No offense, Vincent. This is a Vincent van Gogh oil. This is Beach at, you know this one, Ray?
No.
Scheveningen in calm weather.
Sounds close. Yep.
There it is. Oh, it's so beautiful. See, that doesn't pop, Ray. It's
very drab.
Kind of drab and dreary, isn't it?
But it's Van Gogh.
Yeah. 1882. Held in private hands in various collections since its creation. It has been authenticated. It is a true Van Gogh. Ray, I would not look at that and know it's a Van Gogh, would you?
Well, it's 140 years old too. It's not like a lot of time with art, I tend to think, oh, it's from the 1500s or something, right? It's not that far in the past. I wonder how big it is. We don't have the number information on that.
Yeah, that does work. You know, we always envision, Ray, this is like the size of like a typical thing you'd throw up.
Yeah, like a 24 by 36 or something.
Some of these things are like this big, like
8 by 10 or something. Yeah.
In the Mona Lisa, I've never seen the Mona Lisa. Been to Paris multiple times, never seen it. But I think the Mona Lisa is really small too.
I looked it up. It's 14 by 20 inches.
This one is?
I thought, according to what I saw, I didn't read it because I didn't want to see if it had a price point, but I saw 14 by 20.
14 by 20. So that's pretty small,
8 by 11 your binder paper, right? So a little bit bigger than that. Yeah.
Nothing huge. You're right. So there's your Van Gogh. Let's go on to number 3. We go from Vincent Van Gogh to Rugrats. Wow. That's a jump.
Yeah.
This is an animation cell from the opening sequence of Rugrats, and you can see those signatures. That is Arlene Klasky and Gabor Supo, who founded the studio that developed Rugrats. They worked on the original series. My gosh, that from 91 to 04 with Rugrats. And I got to say, Ray, I've never seen an episode.
Is Rugrats the one that goes Rugrats? Woo-hoo. I feel like I've heard the song, but
No, that's DuckTales.
Well, DuckTales for sure. I've never seen Rugrats either.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
The other night at trivia, I think we had a question regarding Rugrats. We were at the school trivia and they did a bit on kids shows because it's all parents with kids. We did terrible, but I think the question, and I don't know, I may be totally wrong here. There was a question about what is the name of like the brother of the main girl character or something. And luckily my sister-in-law, she's about, what is she? She's probably 10 years younger than I. So this is a little more up her. I think it was Dill Pickle or something. No. Dill Pickle, I think, is the Rugrat. It may be confusing cartoons here. But I know nothing about this show. I know it's popular hell. They made it for 14 years, but I know zilch about it.
I'm not surprised you don't know much about kids' cartoons because as we learned yesterday, you don't care about your son even having a nice bed to sleep in. So why would you spend time watching cartoons with him? I don't know.
That's a cheap shot, Ray.
A little bit, but you give me one every day pretty much, so I just return the favor.
Fair enough. That is true. Okay, let's go to a 2004 hockey card. The Ultimate Collection Wayne Gretzky. It includes a signature and an NHL patch from Gretzky's jersey. This is graded an 8.5. Pretty cool. Pretty nice.
Wow, is that the NHL patch from the jersey and the signed jersey?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that white portion is part of a Kings jersey where the signature is, I think.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
And then, you've got that NHL cut. That may be from the back bottom of the jersey.
Back in the day, that's where they were. Now they're in the middle. Yeah.
Oh, now they're in the middle, kind of on the chest. Yeah. But so back then, they would have been on the other side.
We had the Opeachy Gretzky. Was it last week? 2
Yeah.
weeks ago? So this must have been from the same collection, I would assume.
Yeah. How much did that go for?
It's like 100. It was 130 or something. What was it?
156,000 for that one, which I love. That was a cool card. This card's cool, and I get it. Like all the game worn stuff, autographs, very cool. But if I'm getting a Gretzky, I'm going for that rookie card, I think.
Yeah, but that's a really cool card there.
Here's our ticket stub. Item number 5. This is a ticket stub from 1962 from the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game for the Philadelphia Warriors. There is a little crease at the top left corner. There is an uneven bottom border, and there is light surface wear. To which I say, yeah, it's a ticket from 1962. We're being a little rough on the grading here, Ray, if we're going to point out all that. I expect, that looks spectacular. Wouldn't you expect it to look much worse than it looks right there?
And it says that Hershey, Pennsylvania was where the game was. I don't see an actual grade on that. So maybe it's not even, it's like because it's torn, they don't even grade it. I don't know. But to me, that looks fantastic.
It's cool, but it may never happen again, Ray.
It'll never happen. 100 points. It's never going to happen again.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's missing something on the attractive. Like I get it. I'd love to have it. It's a cool little keepsake. But in terms of spending gobs of money on it,
it isn't part of the problem that it looks like a ticket from the fair. Like there's no logo on it for the team or anything. Yeah,
and it's not recognizable enough that you would say, "Oh, it's that game." There are some like Super Bowl tickets, you get like the image of the Super Bowl that year. Like there are some tickets that kind of indicate this one, Ray. It could be from a wrestling match at the Promenade that night.
Look at what it says there. Friday evening, March 2nd. It doesn't even have the time on there unless it was on the other part of the card. Friday Eve.
It says good only, so you can show up anytime on Friday evening. Maybe you'll catch a basketball game.
Yeah, right.
I like it. That's a neat keepsake. I just don't know how much I'm willing to pay for it. Finally, this is a Harvard football and baseball decorative stein. We don't have an exact date on this, 1890 to 1910, so late 19th century, early 20th century. It is 9 inches tall, and Ray, that is an original pewter hinged lid. I don't know. Even I would not drink out of that if I secured this.
This is like something that's from PBS, right? What's the auction show on there? Why am I trying
Antique Roadshow?
Yeah, there you go. I'm trying to hold blank. Watch it every week. But yeah, like you'll hear people, oh, I had that on my desk. I've had fruit in it. Ma'am, that's a $45,000 vase. Oh, okay. I
keep flowers in this thing. Yeah,
I can't imagine
out of this.
Overly expensive. But yeah, look at the art on that. How could you actually use that? That looks terrific.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, being from Harvard. Back then nobody really played collegiate sports outside of the Ivy League, so it's pretty cool. So there we go. Joker costume from Nicholson, Batman 89, the Van Gogh painting, the Rugrats cell, the 04 Gretzky card, ticket stub from Chamberlain's 100-point game, and the Harvard beer stein. Here are the prices. $2.8 million, $5,280, $89,000, $145,000, $450, and then $26,000. 2.8. Is that Van Gogh?
I mean, what do I know? But doesn't it have to be given this list? Of
I can't imagine you can get a Van Gogh for under $150,000. Well, can you?
My issue is yes, and my other issue is I guess the Batman one could go that high, but what else could approach that on this?
Yeah,
list?
Those are the only two.
Yeah.
I just think painting. I feel the artwork stuff, Ray, is out of this.
It's out of control. It's an investment. It never goes down. And it's a Van Gogh, right? Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, getting that Joker costume for $145, that I could, if I had chump change to throw around, I'd go there. Is that the $145? If it's not the two, it's got to be $145, right?
I think it's Nicholson. Like there's been some greats that have played that role, right? But Nicholson, for the broad spectrum of his talent, his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because again, I look at this other stuff. The Gretzky card's not graded high enough. The ticket for Wilt we talked about. The Stein, I have no idea what that is. The production cell, it's got to be the Batman. I agree.
Now, what is difficult, and I wouldn't have guessed this, Ray. I'm struggling with what is $450. I'm like really struggling because the Stein, It's old, but it really has no. Outside of it being old, I don't know if it really has anything historic about it.
Harvard's not known for their football, even though, like you said, they started it, but they're
the thing with Harvard is some rich Harvard dude. There's a few of them out there, I think. It maybe kicks that price up a bit, I think. There's probably one of those. I mean, the others were destroyed at Keggers back in the day. But then you have like the Rugrats cell. Like that means nothing to me. It is autographed by two of the people who ran the production house. And then the ticket stub. Like I think all three of those, Ray, could be $450 depending on what day of the week you catch me.
$450. It can't. I don't think it's the Chamberlain card, just because even though it's not a great keepsake, right? It can't be that, can it? I don't think it can.
There can't be many of those in existence. It's for a single game in the NBA. But you and I have screwed up this before.
We have.
Where we think something's really unique and cool,
Right.
but it's like $450. But that Rugrats cell.
Yeah, but don't you think somebody who's really into that would pay more than that? I mean, if George Lucas signed something, someone I know Rugrats is not the same as Star Wars, but you know what I mean? It's like, you mentioned 14 years, was on forever. Whole generation of people watch that show.
Maybe $5,000.
Maybe, right? Yeah, like I don't think it's high.
I can give you $5,000, $5,280.
You want to do that for the Rugrats and then the Stein at $400?
Stein. Well, then that puts the Chamberlain ticket at $26,000. Doesn't that sound a little over the top?
Well, what do you think? You think 450 is the Stein?
No.
No, you don't. Okay. Then let's remove Rugrats for a second. What's 450? The ticket? What do you think?
Rugrats.
Really?
It's a production cell.
I don't know anything about. Let's do it. I don't know anything about the show.
Ray,
or
I
the
mean,
people.
is there any autograph? Like, think about we get like Willie Mays autographs. You're not paying $450 for a Willie Mays autograph. I mean, I get it. These Rugrat guys are popular to a certain contingent, but it's not like Walt Disney signed the thing.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's do it.
I'm going $450 there. And then I think like the Stein is 52.
It can't be one of the more.
I can see the Stein at 26.
I don't want to do that. It could, but no.
Well, then that puts the ticket stub at 26.
Ticket at
sounds
26.
outlandish.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll follow you down this path.
And then 89's the Gretzky?
Yeah, and 89's Gretzky. Okay, so what we got, Van Gogh, $2.8 million. Joker, $145,000. The Rugrats sell $450. Gretzky card, $89K. Ticket stub, $26. And the Stein, $52.
I don't like the Gretzky.
Oh God, we got to blow the whole thing up then,
Hey,
right?
what do you think?
What is getting to $89,000 here?
What do you think? Do you like the Gretzky? Because again, a rookie
versus
card.
These other items, I just can't see him getting to $90,000 for any of these other things.
All right, let's do it then. I'm voicing my disapproval of that one, just like you voiced your disapproval of my Stein
ticket stub. Yes.
Yeah. So again, I don't.
Stein's throwing me for a loop, Ray. It's 130 years old. It's a historic school where if you put that up for auction, you know, you got a lot of rich people maybe who want it.
Right.
Put it in their Harvard collection.
At least we have it less than the ticket. I don't know. I'm fine with it. It's not.
Okay,
I don't feel good about it, but I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll settle. Let's start with Vincent Van Gogh. The Van Gogh painting, $2.83 million. Now, if we miss this whole thing is blown to smithereens. So here we go, $2.83 million. Correct or incorrect on this one? Van Gogh, $2.8 million. Going once. Correct.
Correct. Woo!
Always, isn't it relief, Ray, when you avoid the goose egg? It's relief. Feels good. Let's see. Now it gets iffy. Might as well go to Rugrats because Ray, this could be the make or break for everything too.
All right.
$450 for the Rugrats cell with the autographs. Correct or incorrect on that one? Incorrect.
Oh no.
Incorrect. Sorry, man. My Rugrats, a little rough. Stein, the Harvard Stein, $5,280. Wasn't feeling great about this one. Correct or incorrect? $5,200. Incorrect.
Uh-oh.
Could be a 1 out of 6, Ray.
We're in trouble. We got the only one that was obvious. Yeah.
Tuck your tail between your legs. Well, let's get happy here. Surely the Jack Nicholson costume, $145,000. The Joker costume, $145,000. Correct. Incorrect. That's a steal, huh? $90,000 for that sucker. Wow. Okay, the ticket stub, Chamberlain's 100-point game. We ended up at $27,000. $27,000. Correct or incorrect on the Wilt Chamberlain ticket? What is that? Hershey, Pennsylvania? I think.
Yeah, we got it right, Kyle.
Correct. I got 2. We've done worse, I think, haven't we?
We have, but it's not something to be proud of either.
Okay, so finally that Gretzky card, $89,000. Ray was not feeling this one. One of these we've blown like way off. I guess the Joker thing threw us completely off, but we got the Gretzky at $89,000 incorrect. So Ray, we missed that Joker. Are you surprised by that Joker costume?
Yes and no. I mean, given the movie, given the importance of it, and given the actor, I'm a little surprised. Yeah,
I was because we've seen other movie stuff go for way over what we thought.
So it's not even. It could be 26,000. I think it's gonna be 89.
What if it only went for $450? I'm gonna be a pissed off dude. I would have loved to have gotten in on that.
Right.
I would have
around
left
then.
the show to go bid on that thing in the
Yeah,
middle of the
yeah.
show. That's how I would have. Okay, so 2 out of 6, not the worst. We'll take a break. We'll get our answers. What went for $450, 145K, 89K, 5,200. We will find out next. Hit you with some football as well. It's all coming your way right here on Lunch Money.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern.
People are always very critical when it comes to fantasy baseball. I would say this, and I'm a big fantasy basketball guy. I love fantasy football. There's no fantasy sport that's even close to being as hard as baseball. The season, having to figure out, especially if you're playing weekly, which I don't like to play. Weekly with the 2 starts, having to look at the schedule and everything. Well, I mean, you play in basketball as well. There's no fantasy sport that's harder or more involved than baseball. It takes forever. You take a whole night to do your fab on Sundays.
Yeah, baseball is the most challenging, and I think that's why the popularity has gone down. People don't want to work. They don't want to put in the time. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. You have to know the player pool. That's why I love doing these 15-team, 50-round drafts. I mean, 750, 800 players. You lower all the minor leaguers. I took Spencer Strider last year in my first draft Champions League in like round 40, and that turned out to be a phenomenal pick. So it puts you on to knowing everything about every team. And yeah, it's a lot of work. So I definitely think that it's a challenge, and I just feel like people don't want to put in time and work anymore. I'm not saying fantasy football is easy. It's not. But you cannot tell me that fantasy football is more difficult than fantasy baseball. I play both sports. I don't have an allegiance to either one. I love both. I play both. But, fantasy baseball is a grind, man. You got to put in months of preparation. Spring training is important. It helped me get Carlos Rodon a couple years ago. I was not on him until the spring, seeing the velocity and the changes. So there's a lot of things you can discover in the spring. And this is the first real full spring training that we've had in years. Now, there is the WBC that is going to cut into it a little bit, and some guys will not be at camp. But the spring can help you discover. And again, you're talking about, even if you're in a 12-team league, I mean, you're probably going to have 23 to 30 roster spots. And then the 15-team leagues and the minor leagues, I mean, you got to know a lot. I mean, it takes a lot of skill to win a fantasy baseball title. We've seen it, right? You can have like an average player win a fantasy football league. Like, we've all been in leagues where like, yeah, this guy's not that good. He's probably going to win a championship at some point. Things break right. He has a great draft, picks up a player off the waiver wire. That's not happening in fantasy baseball, man. You do not see bad players win fantasy baseball championships. You just don't. It's a 6-month season. You can't afford to take a week or 2 off from fab. You can't do it. Last year, say you took off the week where Taylor Ward was the big pickup. You lost a player that was a contributor most of the season. I know we had a couple of down periods, and Taylor Ward was a player I added in multiple leagues, but you can't take that time off. You can't afford to miss out. And, every little detail is important. So I know fantasy baseball is not as popular as it used to be, but I personally feel it's because people don't want to work hard. They just don't. Everyone wants the easy way out now. They want easy access. That's why people don't read anymore. They want a quick video. Fantasy baseball is a lot of work, trust me. But you know what? When you win a championship, it's really gratifying.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Okay, we welcome you back in on this Tuesday. Let me readjust my seat. Didn't want to feel too short there. Don't want to look shorter than Ray Flowers. I got to do that in real life. Don't want to do it here on the screen. We've got our correct price tags. Ray and I went 2 for 6 this week, and that sold for how much? Here's what we got, Ray. That Joker costume, $89,000. That's a steal, right?
I mean, yeah.
I think it is.
It's again, it's
I
like
got something Jack Nicholson wore. Oh yeah, and everybody's seen this movie.
It's Batman. It's the Joker. Yeah,
it's a steal. It's a lot better deal than this Rugrats sell for $5,200. That's disgusting. You obviously learn nothing by watching Rugrats if you're spending that kind of money on Rugrats. The Gretzky card is $145. That's a little rich, I think. Kind of surprised by that. And Ray, the Harvard Stein, we couldn't figure out if it's worth something or not. $450 for that Harvard Stein, which I will say that is also a big waste of money, right? I mean, $450 for something to drink a beer out of.
Yeah. Well, again, But you're not going to drink a beer out of it either. You think it's going to be used?
No. I mean, people complain about beer prices. Just think if they served it in that Stein. I mean, you're going to have to pay $470 for your beer. I think that's a ripoff. Like, Ray, that's literally something like if I talk about this all the time. You're showing something to people in the house and they're like, oh, that's kind of neat. How much you pay? Oh, $500. You're an idiot. That's it. You're just dumb. What do you think? Yeah, just foolish. Okay, another fun week of That Sold for How Much. Thanks to Josh and Heather for helping us out there. Going to talk some basketball here in less than 10 minutes. Justin Finsterman will stop in. Quickly on football, because we do have the NFL Combine, which is starting to open up in Indianapolis. Got a few things going on. First off, guys are getting cut. It's that part of the year. Carson Wentz gone. $25 million saved. Marcus Mariota gone. $15 million saved. Giants are going to release Kenny Galladay. That'll save them about $7 million. So all these guys are hitting the market, and cap space is opening up. Derek Carr is going to be in Indianapolis this week. He will meet with teams to try to decide his future. Let's see. Denver is refuting a report from last week that Javonte Williams is a bit behind schedule in his recovery from a knee injury. Ray, that'll be worth watching. I think everybody kind of looks at Williams and says, "Oh yeah, he'll be a RB1."
Right.
We'll just kind of assume he'll be back and ready to go, and I guess we'll at least have to pay attention. I kind of trust the team a bit on this. I mean, that is still 6 months out, so it's kind of anytime a report comes, oh, he's behind schedule. We got 6 months to make things up here. I don't know if he's going to rise to the level of RB1 going into the year, but Javonte Williams is certainly going to have his backers. And if he's healthy enough, Ray, I see no reason why he wouldn't be the lead back and maybe finally be the true lead back there with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely accurate. I just want to point out that his injury was more significant than just the ACL. There's some other stuff that was going on there. And it's all about where he's going to physically be at. That's some guys, 2 months earlier, 2 months later, changes the dynamic completely. That's a 4-month swing in time, right? He's ready for opening day. It's week 8, right? So we'll have to see how it plays out. I think that there should be some positivity for his availability for week 1, though you have to stop short of it being a full-throated support of him being active, because we're not certain if that's going to happen yet.
Yeah. Interesting situation in Buffalo. Leslie Frazier announced, I guess today, he's the D coordinator there with Buffalo, that he's going to take the year off. So I would guess that's something of a personal nature. It's kind of late in the process to make that decision. He is a true vet. Leslie Frazier has been around for decades now, but he's going to take the year off. They're saying he'll be back in 2024, so we'll see there. Staying with the Bills, their GM, Ray, he's in Indianapolis, and he was asked about Gabriel Davis, and the Bills still believe that Gabriel Davis can be a wide receiver too. I think I said a couple of weeks ago when we were kind of doing our post-mortem on the Bills, I said, for me, it ain't happening with Gabe Davis. I guess I could be wrong. The Bills, Ray, still believe he can be the guy, so showing a lot of faith in him.
Yeah, and watch they'll bring in a 3 that they can say that about too, right? Like they need to do something. You have to express that level of, when an organization doesn't support a player publicly, it's terrible. It's really bad, right? So you expect them to say that. And it's not impossible for Davis to improve. Like, it's not impossible. He's stagnated in terms of his production to this point. And obviously in the fantasy space in general, he was a woeful miss in 2022.
Just got some news on another cut that is going to happen probably in the next couple of weeks. And Ray, this is certainly a guy who was being drafted as a top-level running back for this year, but he is now going to enter a market that might include Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and others. Looks like we got another big name that's going to be on the loose.
We do. He's only 28, and he's likely to require not a lot of money, to be honest, much less than those 3 guys you mentioned there, and that's Leonard Fournette. He's due $2 million that's guaranteed, so he'll get that, but he's got a $2 million signing bonus as well that they'll move on from by releasing him prior to March 19th. So Leonard Fournette's going to be gone from Tampa Bay as that organization continues to slalom toward a top 5 pick in the fall in 2024. They went from the pinnacle there pretty much to in pretty bad shape pretty damn quickly.
Well, and Ray, I said they're also making things like, Kyle Trask is like they are mailing it in this year.
Absolutely.
That is a team that frankly has the look of a 4-13 club. Because I think they're going to be slicing even more. They're going to get well under the cap, get rid of all these bad contracts, and pretty well just treat 2023 as a audition, for the future, which that's what's happened when a guy like Tom Brady retires. That's probably what you do. And don't be surprised if somebody like a Mike Evans or Chris Godwin gets traded. There are teams in the market for stud wide receivers, and we could see those guys traded for draft picks. Now, we're not hearing that right now, but if you're really going to go all in, you go all in and you make all these moves. So I think Tampa could be leaning in that direction. Mentioned the combine. Was reading one of the big things to follow this week is Bryce Young and his size. Ray, we're hearing like 5'10" and under 200 pounds. You're always talking about size. Is that something that would turn you off to a quarterback being underweight and probably less than ideal height?
I saw Campus to Canton's Matt Bruning, we've had on the show many times, talking about this on social media yesterday, saying people were shocked that he was under 6 feet because I guess he's listed at 6 feet. And Matt's like, I've known that for 2 years. Where's everyone been? Like this, it's not surprising. He's a small dude. And, talent-wise and all that kind of stuff, ready to run a pro offense, cool, but I'm out. Me. If I'm running the show and my quarterback's 5'10", no, I'm just not doing it. Remember, too, this is not an era where the offensive linemen are 6 feet tall. The offensive linemen, the defensive linemen are 6'6". So, no, we see a lot of guys that come in with that size, and it's just another hurdle to overcome when you make the transition in the NFL.
If you have that size, you better have great mobility. And I think he's mobile, Bryce Young of Alabama. I don't know if it's great mobility because I feel that's, you got to be, say what you will about Kyler Murray, but the guy has great mobility. He can spin around and make tacklers miss. I don't know if we've got that with a guy like Bryce Young, so it could really hurt him. Finally, and they do this every offseason, the NFL looks into possible rule changes. They'll probably look at 7, 8, 9, 10 things, Ray. Most of them will not pass, including this one. They are wanting to at least throw it out there. The ability to maybe review a roughing the passer call. Now, again, this will be, I would suggest, voted down by the powers that be. But we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the XFL. They're allowing kind of open season on challenges of judgment calls. And that's what roughing the passer is, Ray. It's truly a judgment call. And we've seen so often that judgment go in the wrong direction, it appears.
Yeah. I don't know. I've said this many times. I think we're encroaching too much on the game at some level. I think there's plays every week that we see and we're like, they should review that. But then you start getting into like you're saying, things look different on replay. Things look different when you watch them 12 times than when a ref makes a call on the field. Mm-hmm. And, if that's the way the league wants to play it, I get it because there are some bad calls. But where does it stop?
Yeah.
Like roughing the passer, like most of the roughing the passer penalties we all saw last year were bad, right? Like, can we agree with that? I think the majority of them, I don't know if that's fair, but that's my recollection.
Especially the ones late.
Yeah. So it's like, we could review it and okay, but the judgment call stuff, that's tough to review, Kyle.
Well, it's still about protecting the QB. They're so protective of the QB. And I see this a ton in soccer. Anybody who watches soccer, they've got, anytime you watch dudes go down on replay, it either looks like the biggest fake or the absolute worst hit. And it's very tough if a referee, you got to be really good at it to see that in the moment. And we have some of that going on with roughing the passer, where they're so fine-tuned into protecting the QB that when he gets rid of the ball, anytime that QB gets rid of the ball, these refs are on high alert to see if the QB is getting hit. And so often we do see the flag fly. Again, they'll talk about it. I don't think anything will change, though, for the upcoming year. That'll get you set on football. A lot more on the NFL coming up this week as the Combine picks up in Indianapolis starting tomorrow with all the players running around. Ray's favorite part of the offseason beginning tomorrow. Take a break here. Quick breather. When we come back, NBA talk. Justin Finsterman will join us. Let's see. We got a new coach in Atlanta. Got injuries. LeBron's going to miss time. Kevin Durant might be back soon. We got to congratulate Justin. His Knicks beat the Celtics last night, knocking off the #1 team in the East. We'll hit you with some hoops next, right here on Lunch Money.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Bettor Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete. 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
No way you know.
and Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know it.
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders, unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. Yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had two people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Bettor Sports Network.
Justin Fensterman is taking the ball down the lane and scoring for your Fantasy Hoops team. He's joining Lunch Money, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Now back to Kyle and Ray.
He is also a man who can probably name all the main events from like 35 WrestleManias. Maybe. Probably not. He's not that crazy, is he? I don't think. He is our resident basketball hoops man. He is also our resident squared circle wrestling fan. He is the one and only Justin Finsterman, who joins us now, as he does every Tuesday here on Lunch Money. Of course, you can catch him and Adam Ronis with the Playbook. They're coming up at 5 o'clock today, but Justin is with us. Looks like he has also brought his leather basketball. That's an oldie, Justin. How long you had that sucker?
Oh, man, this Infusion and Never Flat one where it never goes flat. It actually hasn't gone flat in about 15 years. So it actually is true. Good advertising right there, Kyle. You know all of that false advertising that goes on. This one, no, though. A Never Flat. I've not one time.
Would it kill them to make a car tire like that?
Seriously, one that when a nail is about to go in, boom, it blocks away the nails like that.
Ray, isn't that something else? 15 years, Justin has never aired up that ball.
Yeah, I have run flat tires on my car, so it'll go flat and still work, which is the adjustment the tires have made. But yeah, I'm surprised. So you can't adjust. I don't even remember this ball. You can't adjust the volume of air in it. It just is what it is. You couldn't have taken some out if you want. It's got this little thingy right here, but I don't know how to take this out. I mean, I can't even. I could barely put toilet paper on the roll. You know,
Little thingy. Got to stay away from those little thingies. It's also never been bounced by Justin. He's just somebody who has it sitting on a shelf.
Does this in the office?
Yeah, it's just.
Don't give away all my secrets, guys. See, this is the problem with knowing you guys for as long as I have.
Yeah, we know how it works, Justin. We know. Okay, we're here to talk some hoops. As usual, like injuries is kind of the main thing. The big one now is LaMelo. I mean, we talked about him before. This year's been a mess, but he got back on the court. He's been like a stud. But now, Justin, it sounds like no LaMelo ball for the Hornets or fantasy players for a while, huh?
Yeah, he's done for the year. 36 games. That's it. Came into the season hurt, multiple ankle injuries, crushing his year. And it's just very disappointing. And the reporting going into the season was that he was only going to miss about a week or two. And I still drafted him in one of my leagues. Stupid me for doing so. Shouldn't have believed that at all, because he ended up being out for multiple weeks, came in, hurt himself a couple of games later, came back, hurt himself again. A few games later, he's back. And now he fractures his ankle
right as we're getting ready for fantasy basketball playoffs. Brutal loss, guys.
Lakers making some moves, Justin. They're not really doing anything. LeBron's now got the foot issue. Talk to us a little about the whole situation with the Lakers. Where are they at, and what does it look like moving forward, Justin?
I mean, they're trying to get into the play-in tournament, Ray, and this is not going to help them because LeBron is looking like he's going to miss about 2 to 3 weeks with that, and you only got about 5-6 weeks left in the season. Because of the play-in tournament, it still gives them a shot to make it. The Lakers did a great job at the trade deadline getting defensive pieces like Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley. And that's where it's really going to help them right now because with no LeBron James, you're going to be looking at Anthony Davis as your number one option. Now you have to rely on Mr. Glass, Anthony Davis. D'Angelo Russell, who they just acquired, he's been dealing with an ankle injury. So once he's healthy, he'll be the number 2 prioritized scorer on the team. But this isn't good. And at this point, if you're a Laker fan, you're just hoping that they get into that play-in tournament, which is still very possible. But a lot of players are going to have to step up with LeBron out, including Troy Brown Jr. is going to have to play some more meaningful minutes. Lonnie Walker and Austin Reeves as well in the midcourt.
It's the Playbook and Fantasy Alarms. Justin Fensterman joining us here, talking basketball with us as he does every week. And one of my nephew's favorite players, and again, he doesn't like too many guys that score 6 points a game, Justin. One of his favorite players is Damian Lillard. Kyle and I talked about his all-star performance. He's hitting 48-footers and all that kind of stuff. He dropped the 71 spot the other night. Talk to us about him, where he's at, both in terms of historically as well as this season in the fantasy game.
It's funny you asked that because Adam Ronis and I were discussing yesterday, you could check it out with BSN On Demand on the Playbook, whether or not Damian Lillard is an undisputed top 10 player. We both say yes. In fantasy, the same thing too, because especially in fantasy right now, this team doesn't have Anthony Simons to help him out in the backcourt. They don't have Yusuf Nurkic. So it all comes down to what Damian Lillard can do virtually by himself with a little bit of help from Jeremy Grant. They just don't have a lot of consistent scorers in Portland, and they've been facing injuries all throughout the year. And just what Damian Lillard brings, he wants the ball in his hands in the clutch. He doesn't hide in the corner like some of the other top scorers. This is someone that will pull up if he's feeling it, and he'll hit a shot from about 8 feet from beyond the arc. So it's one of the best shooters, one of the clutchest performers over the last decade. I love this guy. And the fact that a few years ago, and still to this day, that there were rumors that, the Blazers might get rid of him. Blazers shouldn't get rid of this guy. It would be stupid to get rid of him.
Well, and I totally agree with you, but man, we see every dude in the NBA talk his way, force his way out of town. Should we give credit to Lillard for not? Like everybody else says, get me out of here. I want to go to, but he has not with Portland.
No, but he wants to be there. He's fully embraced the city. And that's why all those rumors about a year ago of him wanting it, they weren't true. He's always loved being a part of Portland, and Portland's community around their basketball is great. I mean, you talk about guys like Brandon Roy, who got his career cut short. Everybody loved him, and they see the love from the Portland fan base. Yeah. Those 90s Blazers teams that they made it to the finals, you forget when the team doesn't win a championship. Late 80s, early 90s, the Blazers were a great team. You had Michael Jordan's second best guard in the league was Clyde the Glide Drexler. Everybody loved him. Even some of the minor names, Kyle, like Buck Williams, everybody made like he was an all-star.
Jerome Kersey.
Absolutely. Terry Porter, Clifford Robinson, who invented wearing the headband. Everybody embraces these Blazers teams, and I totally understand why Lillard doesn't want out of there because it's a great city. Imagine having to be in New York or Philadelphia where those fans will turn on you in a second.
Justin, it sounds like tomorrow's finally the day. Kevin Durant in a Suns uniform. Here's my question. Durant's great, but Chris Paul's great. Devin Booker's great. Whose numbers take a step back here with Durant? Of those three, who kind of falls back a bit?
I mean, by default, it has to be Chris Paul. Chris Paul doesn't want to shoot, Kyle. He wants to be Mark Jackson. He just wants to set everybody up. He wants to be Derek Harper. If the three is open, he'll take it. Otherwise, he wants to play make. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to shoot. So I have to say by default, it's him. But I'm going to add one more name in there. DeAndre Ayton, I think, is someone that's going to see a slight decrease in shot attempts because Kevin Durant is there. Who's going to be the number one scorer between Booker and Durant? I still think it's Booker, but I could definitely see them evening out the shot attempts between Booker and Durant.
Justin, Quinn Snyder was hired by the Hawks. Talk to us about what he brings stylistically and how does that impact the fantasy assets that are currently on the team? Who goes up, who goes down? What are your thoughts?
He's a good offensive guy. He's a good team chemistry guy, but unfortunately, Trae Young's run his last 2 coaches out of town. So it's funny you ask from a fantasy standpoint. Makes me wonder that if Trae Young starts mouthing off, if Quinn Snyder will draw the line in the sand and maybe sit him out to discipline him. So it's funny because if Trae Young doesn't keep it in control, he could find himself benched potentially. But ultimately with this fantasy team, they're very top heavy, the Atlanta Hawks. Their bench, you really nothing to write home about. I'd like to say Onyeka Okongwu will get more minutes, but Clint Capella will still play between 25 and 30, more like 28 to 30. So I think all the fantasy impact stays the same. I just wonder if he's going to take Trae Young's crap, if Trae Young gives him that crap, because Nate McMillan was unceremoniously fired. It made no sense. Even Lloyd Pierce, too. It all goes back to Trae Young. And if Trae Young cannot make it happen with this guy, they're paying over $8 million per year, you might see Trae Young sent packing in a year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Quinn got 5 years, I think was his contract. So, yeah, I think if it doesn't work over the final month and a half here, you could see an off-season trade.
I don't think it'll be that short of a leash, Kyle. I think by the trade deadline, though, if this Hawks team is where they are right now next year around the trade deadline, and he's doing his usual BS, because I really don't like that. Just play the game. Stop, right? You are a star. Stop running coaches out of town. And you have good coaches, too. Like Nate McMillan. It's not some crappy, unproven coaches like Steve Nash. Nate McMillan, an over 500 record, good character guy, brings teams together. And Trae Young just runs him out of town. And the team continues to choose Young over the coach.
Yeah. Last thing, Justin, it seems like every Tuesday we bring you on and we say, yeah, the slate's got 4 games. Tonight, we got 10. We got a ton of NBA action tonight. So that probably means that you have a ton of props. But what are a couple of your favorites for tonight?
I try to keep myself disciplined, especially with the parlays, guys. One of the things that I've been talking about on the playbook was that until I can hit multiple 2-leg parlays, I'm not placing another 3-leg parlay until I hit multiple. I want to keep myself disciplined, guys. We get too attached to these parlays here. Let's just hit the bet. That's what it comes down to. And a few of the bets that I'm hopefully going to be hitting tonight include, and this is a name going way down the line, Talen Horton-Tucker for the Jazz, because the Jazz will be without both Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. I've got Horton-Tucker over 4.5 rebounds. It's a little bit juiced up on different books, but it's such a low number. He was in foul trouble last game against the Spurs, who he's facing tonight. Still went over this number, has gone over this number the last few games since Sexton's been out and he's played more minutes. So I'm taking the over on his rebound prop, over 4.5 for him. I'm considering, guys, Anthony Davis props as well with no LeBron James. 27.5 points is a high number, but still he'll be able to get inside and he'll be featured a little bit more as well. Those are 2 props that I'm looking at. And then one more that I've been kind of toying with betting as well. Daniel Gafford with no Kristaps Porzingis. He's going to be out going up against those Atlanta Hawks. Their front court defense is garbage. Gafford, if he can stay out of foul trouble, should be playing close to 30 minutes. His rebounding props at 7.5. I almost said 17.5. Ken Ahura. 7.5. I'm taking the over on that one, guys. It's at minus 135, and people are too focused on plus money. I just want to hit the bet. Yeah. Even if it's not as great of a return, I just want to return. That way, as I'm building kind of a DFS style and mindset, as I'm building my bankroll and hitting these bets that are juiced up a little bit, then I can use some of the money that I got from them to place those parlays. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going back to basics, guys. NBA prop betting, never easy.
Good swell reminder, if you will. I wonder if Rodman back in his day, I wonder what his props were on rebounds. Like 15.5 back in
Rod, if anything, it'd be like 13, 14.5 every single time. And his point prop is sitting there at like 6.5 every day.
His PRA would have been like 22. He would have 15 boards. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Justin, good to see you, man. Congrats to your Knicks last night, toppling the Celtics.
They were without Jaylen Brown, though, Kyle. You know, it's a big piece missing. So I could be a win.
Still a win.
Yes, still win. They've been hot. They've been good. The Josh Hart acquisition has been nice. Do I think if they're matched up against a team like the Sixers in the first round, do I think that they can win a round? No.
One and done, as they say. Justin, we'll have you do 14 and done. Thanks for the visit. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, guys, for having me again.
Catch them on the playbook coming up at 5 o'clock. Final breather for us. Quick one. We're back to wrap things up. We got some news from spring training. I said earlier, hey, today's the day, Fernando Tatis Jr. Well, is it? We'll check in after this on BSN with Lunch Money on a Tuesday.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
Calvin Ridley yesterday, he applied for reinstatement from the National Football League.
Ridley, Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. That is crazy potent on offense.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, Ridley's great.
I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy I want in fantasy this year.
I think you're probably right. I think they're just going to get better and better. First off, Peterson's a wonderful offensive mind, a great head coach, and we've seen that and saw that this year as Jacksonville made it to the postseason. And Trevor Lawrence, anybody that questioned whether or not he could play in the National Football League or just how good he was going to be in the NFL, those questions were answered this past season as in the second half of the year. Statistically speaking, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. That's how good Trevor Lawrence is. You throw Calvin Ridley into the mix, he's going to be great. Yeah, I think Lawrence is a guy you want. I think Ridley's a guy you want. Clearly, Travis Etienne is going to be one of those early, first-round selections as well, being the dual-threat running back that he is, not only running, but also catching the ball out of the backfield, Keith, and the ability to take something small and take it to the house. Take a 5-yard dump pass, make a guy miss in the open field, and he's gone. I mean, you saw that with Travis Etienne this past season for Jacksonville. Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, I think you're going to go from a team in the year span where you wanted no part of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you're looking at fantasy football to where you want as many Jaguars as you possibly can because they're going to be really, really productive. And let's see if they get their tight end back as well. Who had
Evan Ingram was great.
And Evan Ingram, who was great this past season.
Yeah. I mean, if they keep that whole core together, their offense is going to be one of the best in football. Like, I legitimately think that they could be one of the best offenses in football.
Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, then
and Ridley,
Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, a good offensive line, and you've got Doug Peterson being creative calling.
Right.
And you look at that division. The Colts are a mess.
Yep.
Titans
look like they're on the downslide.
Titans are on the downslide, right? That window is clearly closed. And then you got the Houston Texans.
Years away from relevancy.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacksonville could win 11 games next year.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
Okay, we welcome you back in. It is Lunch Money on this Tuesday afternoon. I said at the start of the show, hey, today's the day we get to see Fernando Tatis, right? Well, Ray, they're keeping us guessing. Now, I was looking over at MLB.com. Lineups are out. San Diego is taking on San Francisco. So I take a look at this lineup. I'm like scrolling for Tatis. The game starts in like 10 minutes. I don't see Tatis anywhere. I then count the number of batters that they have listed in that lineup. There's only 8 guys listed. For some reason, on the box score I am staring at, it has Grisham 1, Cronenworth 3, Matt Carpenter 4, Dahl, Azekar, Merrill, Sullivan, and Lopez. I am guessing, I am assuming, again, I'm going off MLB.com's own, I'm assuming the number 2 hitter in DHing today is Fernando Tatis. That is the assumption. And you said you haven't seen anything online, so I guess that's probably where he's at for today.
All the air in Padre land is taken up by the broken toe of Musgrove and the official announcement, press conference-wise, of Manny Machado signing his $350 million extension. So that's all the beat writers. That's all I've seen nothing. I haven't seen Tatis' name even mentioned here.
Yeah, so I think he's in. I think that's just a screw-up on the internet side. But when you pull up that lineup, and again, this is on the MLB homepage, and let me do a quick update. Maybe. Okay, now he's in there at number 2. They've gone to the more official because they are in the warm-up. They start here in about 5 minutes or so. So he is hitting second, so he's in the lineup. We will indeed get our first look at Fernando Tatis, the eagerly anticipated first look at Fernando Tatis. Ray, lunch hunch for today. What do you got as a possible long shot call for us to pay attention to?
Yeah. We're staying in the world of baseball, and we're going to talk about the run scored leader. We talked a lot about that. We always talk about runs scored. We were talking earlier about leadoff batters and such, spot and batting order. So today I'm going with the MLB run scored leader at a plus 2,000. Now, he's not a guy that gets on base a ton. His on base percentage below other guys, but I'm going Bo Bichette. He spent the majority of last season hitting second. They're going to have obviously another strong lineup around him in Toronto. I'll take the odds. I mean, Aaron Judge is at the top of the list. He's plus 600. Give me the 2,000 with Bo Bichette.
I like that. I can totally jump in on Bo Bichette. I find myself over and over again going in his direction in drafts. I love Bo Bichette early in the second round.
Yeah.
I might even take him at the back end of the first round, depending on where I'm sitting. Problem is, Ray, is if you're in the first like 6-7 picks, I can't really make an argument to take him early in the first round, and I doubt he gets back to me in the second round. So sometimes you're just priced out of certain guys, just doesn't fit with your draft positioning. I think Bichette might be that case, but man, plus 2,000, that's some really tasty odds. I'm going to go to the world of hockey tonight. The Buffalo Sabres are taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets, truly one of the worst teams in hockey. They give up a lot of goals. Buffalo's very good offensively. I'm going to go with Jeff Skinner over 1.5 tonight against Columbus. That is plus 185. Skinner and Tage Thompson make up the important pieces of that top line in Buffalo, and those guys have been red hot. The numbers are 9 goals and 8 assists in their last 5 games. Buffalo scoring 3.8 goals per game. That's the second best in the league, and like I noted, Columbus, they're not stopping anybody in net. Also, Buffalo, the 5th best power play. These guys are rolling, so I'll take Jeff Skinner over 1.5 against Columbus. Finally, our dessert to go on this Tuesday. Ray, this article, I don't want anybody to think I'm taking a dig at the military, okay? I'm not. This comes from militarytimes.com. So this is a website / publication that really only covers the military and issues within. Ray, they have a column up today. They are very worried about the Army getting fat. People are too heavy. They're out of shape. And what they are blaming it on, Ray, I'll read it right from the headline. Dip, Doritos, and drinking. Looks like you're ready to join the military. Right?
Yeah. Let's go. Woo!
You're ready to go. Check this out. Active duty forces abuse alcohol 20% more than the general population. They smoke 50% more. And they have an obesity rate that is 17% higher than the general public.
Wow.
And one thing they point out, Ray, is that, you know, on these military bases, they have supermarkets, you know, stores, whatever you will. They don't charge taxes on that stuff. No state tax, no federal taxes. So you got, you know, all the, and they're like, you get all this junk food. Yeah, alcohol's got no tax, nothing. You get all this junk food and stuff. You don't have to drive out and get better stuff. And what they serve them is what the people buy. They can save money by buying this crap. So they're like, we got to improve the grocery stores on these Army bases.
We do. That is a good goal. We need our men and women out there strong and healthy.
Yes, strong and healthy. And these are nonprofits that are on the base. Like everything else with the federal government, a nonprofit. That'll do it for today. We'll catch you tomorrow, 12 o'clock on Lunch Money.